come all the way to the south of France and you get rain. For the third round of the Blancpain Endurance Series, we're at Paul Ricard, and in the last few minutes it started to rain. Not that heavily. Some cars have gone to the grid on wet tyres, most have gone on slicks. Hopefully the road is going to dry out, because we've been plagued by bad weather so far this year. We had a very wet race at Monza, a very wet race at Silverstone, and yesterday qualifying and the practice sessions run in glorious weather conditions here at Paul Ricard. Track temperature 24 degrees, it's very humid, and you can see the air pressure there as well, but it's this real threat of rain that has got the teams on their toes. In some cases the teams want rain, because there are a number of cars here that just have not got the grunt in a straight line for the long Mistral straight, and they hope that the wet weather might bring them back into the equation. Amongst them, the Marc VDS Racing team, championship leaders, double winners this year with the BMW Z4s. They are struggling for straight line speed here. This is how the Pro Cup looks, with Bas Leinders, Maxime Martin and Marcus Paltela, winners at Monza, winners at Silverstone, ahead of the Audi drivers Edward Sandstrom, Laurence Vantour and Christopher Hauser. Then it's Christopher Mies and Stefan Ortelli, with the Pro-Am battle also being hugely competitive this year. Eugenio Amos, Alessandro Bonicini and Giacomo Petrobelli, ahead of Ludovic Badet, Jean-Luc Bobolik and Patrice Gouillard. Mark Hayek and Peter Cox, third in class, having only done the one race at Silverstone. They missed Monza due to Mark Hayek's business commitments. Andreassi, Caccia and Palladino lead the Gentleman Trophy, but they're absent this weekend, allowing Hershey and Hissam and Michael Bender, Jan Brunstedt and Jochen Mangs, who's qualified the car on pole in the Gentleman Trophy, to steal some points back again this weekend. Looking down onto the grid then, with car number one, the Audi to be started by Christopher Mies. Now the Audis this weekend somewhat heavier, 50 kilos heavier, thanks to the balance of performance that has left a number of teams complaining that they've been badly affected by it. The Audis are heavier, the BMW is heavier, Ferraris are heavier, McLarens are heavier, Porsches are lighter, and that's going to be significant, I think, when we get to the race. I'll talk more about the balance of performance as the race unwinds. But here at Paul Ricard, it's 3 hours of racing ahead of us, 2 mandatory pit stops, and as ever, David Addison in the booth, Haley Coxon in the pit lane and on the grid. And at the moment, cars up on jacks as teams try to work out what they're going to do in the last few seconds before the green flag lap gets underway about changing tyres potentially. Pole position after qualifying has gone the way of the Kessel Racing Ferrari. It was driven by Daniel Zampieri to set the time. There is the championship leading BMW that starts a long way back on the 7th row of the grid, and Bas Leinders, you can see that, is going to start. Now normally Marcus Paltela does the first stint, but they're going to put Bas Leinders in it now. The forecast is that if it rains, it's going to rain later, and therefore you put Marcus Paltela, who's good in the wet, in for the wetter stint. Now let's head down to the grid and join Haley Coxon.
Baz, you've had 2 great successful victories so far this season. Why haven't you been performing here in Paul Ricard?
Well, with the long straight up to Licine, it's very difficult. The Mistral straight is, I think it's more than 2 k's long, and we lose a lot of top speed. But yeah, we still managed a good qualifying. 12, 13, we're happy with that. Hopefully in the race we can get some places back.
Thank you.
That Mistral straight that Bas Leinders was talking about, 175 miles an hour. You reach on that, 280 kilometres if you prefer. So you've got to have the power, you've also got to have the aero to do it. And initially, the Mistral straight for the Blancpain Endurance Series race was going to include the chicane that's been used for the support races. However, it has been dispensed with, and so you don't have the chicane to break it up. It's this long slog down to Senior, the very fast right-hander, and that does affect some of the cars. In the pre-qualifying yesterday, Mercedes topped the times. There's Nico Verdonk, who will start in the Boutsen-Gignon Racing McLaren, and that's another car that's going to be well worth watching as it tries to work its way into contention for the first few laps. The McLarens, as I say here, a bit heavier, 30 kilos heavier, and also the ride height has changed. They're 8 millimetres higher, which again is going to affect the balance of the car, and the teams have been trying to work around that as well. Number 2 being started by Edward Sandstrom, always a quick driver, as we saw last year, and the Audis starting by their standards a long way back on the grid. That car is going to be on the 6th row, 11th fastest it was in qualifying, as we work our way through to the front of the grid. Edward Sandstrom is going to be a man to watch there, 43, with Mark Soord at the wheel of it. Mark, who has been racing and winning championships since the early 1970s and can still hold his own against much younger drivers. Dino Lenardi was the man that set the time in that car, and Dino, who is a very fast GT racer, is going to be one to watch when he gets behind the wheel, probably in the last stint. And then on the inside of the 5th row of the grid, having qualified 9th, is the Sport Garage Ferrari of the Irishman Emmett O'Brien, Clio racer of years past Kevin Despanas, and Arno Santamato. And it's going to be Santamato who will start. There he is behind the wheel with his black crash helmet. And the Ferrari 458s, even though they are 25 kilos heavier and the ride height is up by 6 millimeters, they've looked very, very strong here so far this weekend. 24 Lamborghini with Mark Hyatt with his distinctive crash helmet. He's going to do the first stint, of course, as ever. He is partnered by Peter Cox, and we know that when Peter gets behind the wheel of the car, it always goes very quickly, but Mark Hyatt gets faster and faster all the time and is somebody that you can never discount. Stéphane Lemeray will start here in 36, the DB Motorsport BMW. And you've heard Bas Linders talking about the fact that they are somewhat compromised in a straight line, but that car went pretty well in the qualifying session. And so too, the Pro Speed Porsche here. Mark Henrici will go first. Now this car, 10 kilos lighter, thanks to the changes of the balance of performance. Mark Henrici going first, whereas if you think back to Monza, for example, in the opening round of the championship, he did the final stint in that car and had a visibility problem because the rip-off windscreen had become a little bit torn and oily as well, and he was struggling for visibility, and that's why he lost the places late in the race. The race director there in the white shirt at the front of the grid, Eduardo Freitas, communicating with the officials in race control as the teams now start to leave the grid. And you can see the pole position Ferrari. Davide Rigon, successful single-seater racer, will be at the wheel of it. Behind him, the Porsche of Anthony Beltoise, the car having not qualified this far up the grid so far this year. It's going to be interesting to see. And there is number 74, which is Dylan Derdala going first in 74 Porsche. Let's go back to the grid and catch up with David Hallyday. He is with Haley.
Greg, all French lineup, fastest Audi on the grid. How do you think you're going to do in the race?
Yeah, I'm really happy because we are the first Audi, like you say, and it was not my best lap because it was a lot of traffic during the qualify, but now we will start the race, and I'm really happy for Audi and for my team, Satellite Racing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Greg Gilver, in fact, you've heard from. David Hallyday having just quickly been whisked off by the team, so Haley on her toes gets Greg Gilver, who is very, very quick in that car, so it's good to hear from him. Dennis Retterer is going to be one to watch in the Mercedes there, because this is the car that's 4th on the grid for KRK Racing. The team not this weekend running its Pro Cup car, so we don't have Carl Wendlinger, we don't have Anthony Kumpen, but Koen Wouters transfers to this car that you've just seen, number 14. 34, Anthony Beltoise joined by Roland Berville and Henry Hessid, who was quick in the bronze test session for the drivers yesterday morning. Certainly with Anthony Beltoise behind the wheel, that is going to be a car to watch over the first few laps, and an all-Ferrari front row. Mirko Venturi will start in number 64. Mirko very much the fastest of the 3 drivers in that, and the idea is that he will start and try and get clear of the traffic rather than have a gentleman racer start and him be involved in lots of battles and the potential for contact early on in the race. Davide Rigon with Stefano Gattuso and Daniel Zampieri there on pole position. Davide Rigon, who starred in Super League, has starred in all sorts of single-seaters over the years, now turning his attention to GT racing, and this car has been quick all season. Lost out a little bit in the wet safety car period we had at Monza, lost out after a slightly garbled pit stop at Silverstone. Maybe this is going to be the race in which it comes good, with now 2 minutes to go to the start. The track has been declared wet. All the cars have to have their lights on, insists the race director, and very shortly the cars are going to be released for the green flag lap, and hopefully it will just be the one. We don't want, like we've had for the previous 2 rounds, half an hour or so of the cars being behind the safety car, which has been the norm really this year, thanks to the nasty weather that we've had. You're looking down on the Paul Ricard circuit that opened in 1969 here near the Castellet, near Marseille. The man behind it, pastis magnate Paul Ricard, and in recent years it has stopped being really a public race circuit, and it's been very much the place to come for private testing or corporate days. However, nowadays, thankfully, more and more race meetings are being held here, and more people, if you like, rediscovering Paul Ricard, and it looks rather different thanks to all the red and blue painted runoff area that we have these days here, which has been used to slow down high-speed cars, and it was happening over the course of the practice sessions yesterday when people were going off. They were working well. It looked rather different, although the general layout of the track is pretty much the same as ever it was, and it does give very, very good racing, as we've had in the support races. So the green flag lap is about to get underway. You've just been on board with the number 11 Porsche that is going to be started by stunt driver par excellence, Jean-Claude Lanier, and the leading car heads away from the grid. And the formation lap is now underway as the green lights go on, and after a bit of encouragement the cars do blast away, trying to put a bit of rubber down, a bit of warmth into the tyres, and the umbrellas that were up in the grandstand opposite me have now gone down, so anybody that's on wets I think has made the wrong call. Those that are on slicks, even if the road is a little bit damp, I think are going to be able to get the heat into the tyres pretty much fast enough so that they can combat any slipperiness down on the circuit. As ever, a monster field of cars. We've lost a few, I have to say, over the course of the weekend. We lost one of the Mercedes, the Lechner racing car, after the bronze test yesterday. That car developed various issues, and we've had, thanks to qualifying, a couple of cars be damaged, one being the 33 Porsche, run by Pro GT. W. Tuchman crashed that. We've also lost number 91 McLaren, Akira Ida, crashed that, did quite a lot of damage, so those two cars are not going to start. And there's been a big question mark over number 21, and this is the MTech Ferrari that had a big vibration problem with the front of the car dropping in both pre-qualifying and in qualifying this morning. The team set to work to try and do some welding and get that sorted out, but couldn't get there in time. They asked permission to run a spare car, which they have with them, and the steward said no to that, and therefore it rather looks as though MTech, after all its hard work, is not going to be on the grid. You can see the grid graphic going through. Look at the different brands we've got at the front of the grid. Look at the different names as well, because after the previous two rounds, you kind of get in a pattern of thinking Mark VDS or Team WRT being up at the pointy end. Very, very different, the grid for this, partly because of the nature of the circuit, partly because of the balance of performance, and it is going to be one of those great first hours where you've got some cars rising up the order, some dropping back a little bit. 22 is going to be one to watch because that car has had dramas over the weekend. Matt Bell will start, and going back to yesterday, that had to have a new gearbox fitted, so they lost quite a lot of running in the United Autosports McLaren. Car number 88 is going to be started by Rob Barth, and that'll be one to watch, the Von Ryan Racing run McLaren. Rob normally does the last stint, but here doing the first stint, and again that's going to be a car that should work its way up towards the front. Lots of weaving around as the cars come down the Mistral straight and head towards turn 10, which in old money is called Signy, the long fast right-hander that then takes them up to Beausset, and then the very twiddly last part of the lap in the third sector. The very final corner, turn 15, is the really slow and tight Virage Groupon, and yesterday a few people getting that wrong. There were a few spins towards the last few corners. So there you can see the vast runoff area. There's barely a blade of grass in sight, but you've got the painted blue and red and white stripes there, which all act as retardation if cars go off the road, and they work well. But at the last corner, where it's pretty tight and twisty anyway, then that's where there could be the possibility of a bit of contact. So the drivers continue to weave around to generate temperature into the tyres, and the maximum anybody can do is 70 minutes, 75 if the safety car is out at the end of your stint. You get points for being in the top 10. Only 6 team members per car per pit stop, plus the so-called dead man on the fuel rig. 2 mandatory stops, so if they can, the teams will try and come in on the hour mark. Well, fuel hasn't been an issue in the previous 2 rounds of the championship, thanks to the weather. Whether it's going to be an issue here on such a fast circuit, and if it stays dry, we'll wait and see. And of course, the other quirk has been, despite the monster entry we've had, and therefore the possibility of dramas in the previous 2 rounds, ignoring that long safety car period for the start because of rain that we've had in the previous 2 rounds, no other safety car periods. It's not been needed because of any on-track incidents, and the race director no doubt hopes it's going to stay that way. Round 3 then of the Blancpain Endurance Series is about to get underway. The cars work their way now then through Virage Groupon. The pace car as it is will peel for the pit lane. Drivers accelerate up towards the line, and round 3 of the Blancpain Endurance Series from Paul Ricard gets underway. 1 or 2 with the wipers still on, and it's going to be Davide Rigon then who tries to get ahead of Mirko Venturi on the run down towards Verrières for the first time. The field goes storming through, including Mark VDS and United Autosports running together, but the 2 Ferraris overlap as they go down to the first corner, and it's Davide Rigon that leads, or rather sideways. Venturi goes second, third is Beltoise, fourth is Dennis Retter, and there's contact behind. Look as the Audi gets muscled out of the way, and a damaged Porsche. Now, was that the Deardala car, or was that Mark Henrici in 75? I think it was possibly Mark Henrici. Is now Venturi at the chicane, goes for the race lead, he goes through. You can see the drivers fighting for traction on cold tyres on a slightly greasy road, but Mirko Venturi doing what he said he was going to do after qualifying, which was to try to hit the front early on and build up a gap, goes ahead of Davide Rigon, but Mark Henrici has got damage on the front of the Porsche. And the Audi that he muscled out of the way, I think, was the number 40 Sansalot racing car, Jérôme Demey at the wheel of it. So that too has lost places on this opening lap as the cars now work their way through L'École and onto the long Mistral straight for the first time. There's the damage on the front of Mark Henrici's Porsche, but it's not slowing him too much. He's keeping at bay the Stéphane Lemeray-driven BMW as the cars make their way down towards Signy for the first time. Great scraps going on right the way through the order here. So Henrici keeping at bay Lemeray as the cars turn their way through Signy. How's the Mark VDS BMW getting on? It's behind the 2 WRT Audis. 1 or 2 cars running wide, and one of them in fact was the Audi. Now which was that? Was that 2 or was that 1 that ran over the curb and has dropped a bit of ground? You've got also in the mix there number 50 Ferrari, Jack Gerber at the wheel with a South African flag writ large on the side as the cars wriggle their way now up towards the end of the lap. Mark Hayek in a big hurry as well, and the Lamborghini trying to work his way through to the front of the class if he possibly can. This running, remember, in the Pro-Am Cup. So the cars, for the first time, head up towards Virage du Pont. And as they do so, is it still going to be Mirko Venturi that leads? And if he can hang on to the advantage, can he start to pull away? One car going a little bit wide there, which looked possible like the V41 BMW, that recovers as the cars power their way now over the line for the first time. It's a Ferrari 1-2 at the end of the lap. Venturi, it is leading Rigon in second place. And then third, going through is Anthony Beltoise. In fourth place is Dennis Retro. Fifth is Dylan Deerdaler. Sixth, despite the damage, is Henrici. Lemray there seventh. Deme having dropped back is eighth. Ninth is Arno Santamato, and 10th is Nico Verdonk in the orange McLaren, the Boots and Junior Racing car. 11th is Matt Bell, his brother Rob Bell, starting a long, long way down the order in the Gulf Racing car. They've had to change the 2 turbos on that car after a failure in qualifying, so Rob Bell's going to be trying to work his way through. It's going to take him a while to do it in such a busy field. Formula Audi here, look, 3 of the R8 together, an R8 ahead of 2 of the newer Ultras, and then behind them is Bas Linders. Moment, you've got number 2, the Edward Sandstrom car, fending off Christopher Mies, and then Bas Linders behind them, 13th, 14th and 15th they run. But up front, now that he's got a clear road ahead of him, Mirko Venturi starting to break away from the opposition. Number 11, Jean-Claude Lanier here, battling on in the Porsche. For the moment, he's a long way back. 44th he is, and we've had a spin for the Nissan there. That was the car that won at Brands Hatch in British GT last weekend. Alex Buncombe was one of the winning drivers of it. He's had a spin early on, but he's got going again in the RJN Motorsport car as a result of that. That's going to drop down the order. And there you can see a great scrap building up between Christopher Mies and right on his tail, Bas Linders in the BMW. They're both trying to work their way past the Ferrari there, which goes a little bit wide, going through the corner. That's 59 Ferrari trying to get out of the way. Alessandro Bonetti at the wheel of that car that does drop wide, loses a couple more spots and therefore drops down also, potentially within the Pro-Am class, because it's in danger of losing places. You can see now to the Lamborghini that's hunting it down as they work their way up towards the end of the lap then now. Mirko Venturi at the end of the opening lap was trying to pull clear of the rest of them. He was 2.6 seconds ahead. So we've got the field then now working their way up towards the timing line. It's number 5, McLaren, with Nico Verdonk at the wheel of it. Also now tries to gain places coming up over the timing line, and he's on the tail. You can see Jérôme Demey. And also in this mix now is 22, Matt Bell. Those 3 cars come across the line. Demey is 9th, 10th is Verdonk, 11th is Bell. Up front then now, Mirko Venturi leads Davide Rigon. And he's still desperately trying to build up that lead as the cars work their way towards the chicane. Currently on lap number 3, as there you can see 51 Ferrari. That thing started by the Venezuelan Gaetano Ardania, stepping up from the Trofeo Maserati, which was very successful last year, trying to hang on to a place as the cars now battle their way to the chicane. And Duncan Cameron, I'm glad to say, is in the race as well, because he's battling with him as there. Bas Linders tries to go around the outside of 59 Ferrari. Can't quite dislodge there, Alessandro Bonetti. But then Bonetti runs out wide as he heads out of the chicane. That loses the pace to Bas Linders. So the BMW now trying to work its way into contention. It's going to be a long afternoon for the Marc VDS Racing team, as it will also be for the other Belgian team, Team WRT, because of the extra weight on board those cars. But gradually, they're starting to come into the mix now. Audi and 2 McLarens as one. This is the Demey Verdonk Bell battle going down towards senior. Up front, it is still Mirko Venturi getting away from Davide Rigon. He's quicker than him in both of the first 2 sectors so far, as there Jérôme Demey on the inside loses out. Nico Verdonk goes round on the outside, and an incident between cars 18 and 35. No further action. Well, 35 we know is the Nissan, and 18 Brett Curtis starting in the Black Falcon Mercedes. So that was the reason the Nissan had spun. There was contact between the 2, but no further actions to be taken according to the message line on the screen that we get and all the teams get, so they can keep up to date with what's going on track as well. There's Mark Henrici's crumpled Porsche, but the car's still going strongly despite all of that. Might need a bit of gaffer tape at the first round of pit stops. And Xavier Marson watching on from the pit lane, seeing how his car is doing. At the moment, pretty good is the answer. It's good to have Porsche back in the mix. They were rather subdued at Silverstone. So Mirko Venturi leads the way. There is Mark Henrici 5th. Of course, Mark, very successful driver in years past, not just in GT cars, but he had a spell in the World Touring Car Championship as well, in the Independence Cup. Drove for the Marc VDS Racing team last year, both in the Spa 24 Hours and also in the FIA GT1 World Championship. Now you've got there number 12, Grégoire de Moustier on the inside, looking the white and red McLaren, trying to find a way past Bas Leinders. Bas Leinders now in 15th place, so it's kind of gaining places and then dropping back as others in perhaps better suited cars to Paul Ricard are able to gain ground off him, and Grégoire de Moustier goes up on the inside line there. The McLaren dives through, gains the place as they head down into the chicane. They're in different classes, so although it changes the order overall, it doesn't affect things as far as the class battles are concerned. So Grégoire de Moustier now goes up into 15th place. That's the car that he shares with the quick Brit Duncan Tappy, and it was a strong car as well, a good contender that at Silverstone in the second round of the championship. How about that for a multi-million euro traffic jam, as you've got Ferraris and Porsches and the rather subdued Vita 4.1 BMW also way down. The car started by the reigning champion Greg Franchi. That car in 26th, and off the road is the number 2 Audi, Edward Sandstrom, at the wheel of it, and he's had a drama. He stopped at turn 14, which is Tour, almost at the end of the lap. Can he get going? The car is off the road, and it doesn't look as though it can get going. Now, how it's got there, whether it's a mechanical issue or whether there's been contact that's fired him off the road, we've not yet seen. But either way, one of the front-running cars off the road. That car, remember, second in both of the previous 2 rounds of the championship, so this is a big, big drama for it, as in the meantime, this great Ferrari scrap rages on. Look, we're diving up on the inside, 52, the black, predominantly black AF Corsa Ferrari. Nick Homerson at the wheel of it, just picking off places, hand over fist, chasing after him is Klaus Hummel in the orange and white McLaren, the Lapidus racing car, first time out for that in the championship this year, and Olivier Pla in the white Porsche, another very quick single-seater racer, turned sports car racer, now turned GT racer, getting in the mix as well. Everywhere you look, there's a battle, there's order shuffling, and this hopefully is going to go on for 3 hours. Fantastic stuff. 57 Ferrari now. Giacomo Petrovelli, the car having qualified way down, that's coming into the mix as well, and Petrovelli lines up and nips past Klaus Hummel as they come through Virage Dupont. Great stuff, this. Over the timing line they come. Giacomo Petrovelli in 57, one of the 2 Vita 4.1 Team Italy cars that runs in the Pro-Am Cup, and of course a class winner already this year. Olivier Pla in the white Porsche dives to the inside there, and you've also got number 20 Ferrari, Ludovic Badet at the wheel of that car. Ludovic, who years past was a very rapid Euro Cup Megane Trophy racer and Formula Renault racer. He's one of the quickest people in the Pro-Am Cup as well, so that's another car not to ignore. What other battles have we got? Well, everywhere pretty much. We've got yellow flags out on track at turn 14 because of this stranded Audi. It is still therefore not rejoined, and this big problem. There it is, the car being pushed either out of harm's way or maybe into the pit lane, but either way this rather looks as though it's going to be the end for that car. Race order, still 64 Ferrari. Mircea Venturi leads 71 Davide Rigon, and then in 3rd place is 34 Anthony Beltoise, 4th in number 14 Dennis Rethra, 5th is Mark Henrici, and in 6th place you've got number 74 Dylan Dierdala. Now there you can see flapping bodywork on the blue and silver Santilok Audi. That, remember, was caused on the first lap when it was lent on by the Pro Speed Porsche, and it has lost places and a bit of ground as a result, and a bit of a wobble as well there as the cars went through Beausset. Gets away with it, and 31 is in the pit lane. This is Georges Caban, normally a pace setter within the Gentleman Trophy, and in early doors that car. Now, it didn't even race at Silverstone because the engine detonated in qualifying, and it hasn't got very much further in this next round of the championship because it has only done 3 laps, and one of those brought it into the pit lane. Reigning champion Greg Franchi there looking 66, the black and turquoise BMW, 26th at the start of the lap, but in danger of being mugged here. He's in traffic, he's trying to gain places, and you've also got joining in behind him the Gulf Racing McLaren, which is in a big hurry in the hands of Rob Bell, the sister car that runs in the Pro-Am Cup, Stuart Hall doing the opening stint. And a big lose there. That's the number 50 Jack Gerber Ferrari. People scatter left and right in avoidance. Not for the first time we've seen Jack Gerber in a bit of strife. He should be able to rejoin from there as you've got the 2 Gulf Racing McLarens together then, with Rob Bell just ahead of Stuart Hall as they come up towards the line. Another great battle here rages on. 72 Kessel Racing Ferrari. That's got Gino Forgione at the wheel of it, comes over the line, and he's busy battling with the number 19 Mercedes from Black Falcon. Never mind that for a second, because another great Ferrari fight is raging on ahead of them. 21 Duncan Cameron now getting in the mix as well. 72 goes wide for Forgione, and that means he loses out to Riccardo Bruchin. Now let's try and catch up in a moment, if we can, with what's going on for Audi, because this is a big drama for the number 2 car, of course. Early in the race, the car stops by the side of the road. Number 1 survives, that's 12th. And there you can see a very disconsolate driver in Edward Sandstrom trudging away from the car. He walked back to the pits and explain all that the car is parked out on the track. So let's try and catch up with his co-driver, Laurens van Toor. He's in the pits. Haley has tracked him down.
Laurens, can you provide us with an update on the Audi?
Well, we don't have so much information. He said we have a problem on the radio and then we lost connection. So we have no idea what happened. So yeah, no more information than you, I guess.
Thank you.
So the team is in the dark, and we're in the dark for the moment, but I'm sure the answer will come to that, because the number 2 car is not one that you anticipate seeing as an early retirement. Georges Caban, in the meantime, has just rejoined the race. Now there, Rob Bell storming his way up the order. He was 30th at the start of the lap, and as you can see, pick off a place, gets past number 17 Ferrari. Dennis Anderson at the wheel of it to do the first stint, and of course shadowing Rob Bell there, you can see Stuart Hall in Raoul Goethe's car, Rob Bell sharing with Mike Wainwright. So the 2 Gulf racing cars run by the indefatigable Dave Price, running together as they work their way through traffic. So as one prizes open a gap, the other follows, and now the champion is in trouble. That's Greg Franchi now, who's run wide, and that looks more than just running wide, to be fair, like he's had to pull wide because the BMW has got a problem. This is the Vita 4-1 Racing Team car, one of the top teams, and last year's champion, and the car looks like it's going to be stranded out by the side of the road. 31st it was at the start of the lap. So again, you've got one of the leading teams in trouble very, very early in the race. And now also, we're getting a report that 64, the leading car, is down the pit lane. It's being shown on the timing screen as having pitted. So Davide Rigon picks up the lead. We've now therefore got dramas for number 64, Mirko Venturi, down the pit lane, according to the timing screen. And what's all this about? The car that was up front and trying to build a lead has got the best lap of the race to its credit, but now has come into the pit lane. So we've had about 14 minutes, and a heck of a lot has happened, and there's a lot more yet to come. 71, Davide Rigon, new race leader. You can see the yellow flags being waved ahead, but it's picked up the lead thanks to 64. Now having come into the pit lane, and there is 66, stranded out by the side of the road, the Greg Franchi car. So Davide Rigon picks up P1, works his way up towards the end of the lap. Now this is going to help, of course, behind number 34 Porsche of Anthony Beltoise, and also the number 14 Mercedes in the hands of Dennis Retter. It's going to help Mark Henrici as well in the battered Porsche. That too will gain a place. So Davide Rigon comes through, accelerates his way out of Virage Dupont, and comes up now, the Kessel Racing Team, over the timing line. And you can see the gap that he's got, nobody around him now. So Rigon comes through, his last lap was a 59.5. Looking good for him. Clear road ahead, clear road behind, doesn't have to defend. Whereas, talking of defending, you've got Jérôme Demey versus Grégoire de Mustier busy defending. Also in this mix, number 1 there, Christopher Mies. Jérôme Demey in the number 40 Audi. So you've got Rigon ahead of Beltoise, ahead of Retter, ahead of Henrici 4th, Dylan Deerdala up to 5th. And in 6th place now, number 42, Arno Santamato. And all of this because Mirko Venturi, having led the race in the pits, he's tumbling down the order. Grégoire de Mustier for the inside line here. This is for a place in the top 10, going down towards Verrières. He doesn't quite squeeze past, he clips the curb. And although Paul Ricard is pretty flat, this is about the one place where there are a few undulations, and you come over a slight brow here, down to the chicane, just over the crest, and then you've got to do the heavy braking to slow down the car for this right, left, right sequence of corners, and de Mustier gets it wrong and runs out wide, and that puts the Ferrari up alongside him. 59 there you can see in the hands of Alessandro Bonetti, that goes right round the outside. Grégoire de Mustier tries to come back at him, and right there behind them, Christopher Mies in the Audi and Bas Linders in the BMW. And there's an element on both their parts there of wanting to gain places but keep out of trouble, and another spin for a Ferrari, and that's 72 Gino Foggioni. He rejoins, more places lost. 66 has now been pushed to a safe position. That's the Vita 4-1 BMW. There's nothing safe about 10th, though, for Jérôme Demey, because he's under monster pressure now. Look, the Ferrari right up behind him. Alessandro Bonetti tries to come up alongside him on this long, long drag. Remember, 175 miles an hour plus they get to on the run towards Signes. They're very, very fast. Right-hander at the end of the Mistral straight. The Ferrari goes ahead of the Audi. Grégoire de Mustier right there behind in the McLaren. It's run by the ART Grand Prix team. Then behind him, you've got number 1, the surviving WRT Audi of Christopher Mies, and then Bas Linders, championship leader, running in 14th place. Yes, really, but there's more to come from that. The team hoping as well that the way the car has been set up to work well by going around the outside lines on corners might be able to gain them a few places, and also they're hoping that the weather's going to change, and that in strife is 74 Dylan Deerdala. Lots of tyre smoke, and he's got that wrong by the look of it, coming through Tour up towards Virage Dupont at the end of the lap, and there's been contact, has there, because that car looks like it's crabbing. Look at that left rear wheel. that's going to have to head for the pit lane, and yet another front-running car is in trouble, and I'm not convinced that's going to go back into the race, because clearly there is suspension damage as it drifts its way involuntarily down the pit lane. Didala was running in the top 6. He's now down the pit lane, and also in has come Grégoire de Moustier. Are the two things related? Was it contact between the two? Well, either way, number 12, McLaren, has come in. There it is in the background. And there you can see the Porsche limping its way in, and the Pro Speed team, which hasn't had a lot of luck this year, is going to have to go to work. Looking down on the pit box from where I am in the pit lane, and the team is ready. Worried faces. And it looks like this is going to have to be a long stop. It may even be that the car is retired. If they can repair it, it's worth sending it out by way of a test session, but nothing more than that now, because it's going to be such a long stop. And Grégoire de Moustier also tumbling down the order. It's all go, and it's number 71, David Rigon, leading the way at the moment. There's 88, Rob Barth, going well in the 88, Von Ryan McLaren up into 16th place. We've not really seen the best of Rob so far this year, because at Monza the car crashed out early on. At Silverstone the car was a bit hampered by the rain and also by the long early safety car period. But now the quick Brit showing what he can do. And Rob, very quick driver, also very good driver coach. So working with Leon Price and Jordan Grogor, he's bringing the two of them on in terms of their driving ability. The whole thing now is starting to gel. It's coming together well. 16th the car runs at the moment. More to come from that before the end of the race for sure. Number 1 Audi up into the top 10 now after all the fun and games at the end of the previous lap. Bas Liners up into 11th, and there is Olivier Plat. He was 17th at the start of the lap, and he too has picked up a few places since then. He's under pressure, mind, because there you can see the Audi ganging up on him. 43, that is, right on his tail. Marc Soord at the wheel of it. Vastly experienced driver, Marc. He barely missed a season since the early 1970s when he was winning French Formula Renault titles. And there, number 14, Dennis Rethra, goes over the line, chasing Anthony Beltoise. Not quite on the tail, not quite as quick, in fact, last time through. The gap just ever so slightly crept up. So the race order, number 71 Ferrari of David Rigon leads the way from 34, which is Anthony Beltoise in second spot. Third is Dennis Rethra. There he is in the Mercedes. In fourth is 75, the damaged Porsche of Marc Henrici, doing a great job despite that damage. In fifth place, number 5, Nico Verdonk, going well in the orange McLaren. That's not really sparkled this year. They've had dramas, certainly at Silverstone, but now going very strongly. Sixth is 42 Ferrari, Ivano Santamato. Seventh, there it is in the background, is the mainly white BMW, Stéphane Lemray at the wheel. Eighth is the United Autosports McLaren, as Matt Bell going great guns. Ninth is 59 Ferrari, Alessandro Bonetti. And then the 10th, Christopher Mies versus Bas Liners. See Martin watching on. The secret weapon, probably not that secret anymore. Everybody knows what happens when he gets behind the wheel for the last stint. He is just an absolute hero. And that is why the team will always leave him until the very end, because if there's a safety car in that last period, you need his speed to drag that car back up the order. Car 12 just going back down the pit lane. De Moustier back into the race after his long pit stop. It's taken that car out of contention. So David Rigon it is, up front, leading in his class by 12.7 seconds. His class opposition being Marc Henrici, but of course between them you've got the Anthony Beltoise and Dennis Rethra top two, and they are squabbling for honours with 0.7 of a second between them for the Pro-Am Cup at the moment. 51 Gaetano Ardagna just keeping at bay. 57 Ferrari, Giacomo Petrobelli. And this is the 13th and 14th places overall. They're both Pro-Am Cup cars, these as well. Just ahead of them is the Audi of Jérôme Demé. So everywhere you look at the moment, there is a battle. And the Ferraris that are good numerically, but also good for speed around Paul Ricard, starting to look very competitive, not just in Pro Cup, but Pro-Am as well now. Race leader has done 10 laps, David Rigon. And there is the car that led early on. It was a pretty short-lived lead for the Ferrari of Black Bull Swiss Racing. Mirko Venturi led. The car is in its pit garage. Things do not look encouraging as here, up towards the timing line, is about to come the long line of cars headed by Jérôme Demé, who is now in 12th. In 13th, Gaetano Ardagna. Giacomo Petrobelli is behind him. 15th now is the white Porsche of Olivier Plat. Ludovic Badet is joining in. He's got himself up ahead of Rob Barth, who's dropped back into 17th place that time. 18th is Marc Soord. 19th is Nick Commerson. And there, the orange and white McLaren 20th in the hands of Klaus Hummel. 21st, just behind Klaus Hummel. There you can see at the back of the shot is Mark Blundell, starting in the second of the United Autosports McLarens. Good little battle developing here, and that's another car that's had to have work on it over the weekend. Mark Blundell's car, new clutch needed on Saturday. Great little fight here. Look, Nick Commerson coming under real pressure from Marc Sword. He's just got himself up and past the Audi, but Marc Sword straight away comes back at the black Ferrari. Nicolas of those starts to pull clear. Now we've got the race leader working lap 11, David Rigon. We've seen 64 still sitting in its pit box, going no further, it will appear, even though it's done the best lap of the race early on in the hands of Mirko Venturi. And let's see if we can find out more about that. Big shock, that car coming into the pit lane. Haley, of course, is in the pit lane. Haley, what news about 64 then? The Ferrari in trouble?
Hey, Addis, yeah, the update is gearbox issues. Having issues with the gears changing, so they had to bring it in. It is not repairable.
Oh dear, right, thanks for that, Haley. So bad news, gearbox not working, not repairable, out of the race early on. So that tells us the story, and it tells us why this car now, 71, David Rigon, is not just leading, but he's on his own, look. Barely a car around him. Only now does Anthony Beltoise come over the timing line in the Porsche in second place, being chased by Dennis Rettre. Very quick Dutch driver who never had the money to really progress once he got to British Formula 3, but in these sorts of cars he goes very, very strongly. And this car in his hands was fast yesterday in the pre-qualifying session, so don't discount it. It's not normally a front runner, but it's a different driver setup for this weekend, because Dennis Rettre, who is the regular quick driver in it, is continued to be partnered by Raphael Vanthor, Laurens Vanthor's father, but Koen Wouters transfers from the absent 13 from the Pro Cup into this car, and Koen Wouters has proved to be very, very quick indeed this year. Olivier Pla is about to go for 13th off Jérôme Demey. He can't do it. The Audi fends him off as they head down towards Verrières, and right up behind them is Gaetano Ardagna in the STP-backed Ferrari, and that car going great guns as well. 51 run by AF Corsa, one of the crack Ferrari teams. Now, how in all of this is the MTech car getting on? Duncan Cameron, we saw, was in the race, but has dropped places, I'm afraid to say, after the hard work from MTech. 24, Mark Hayek also looking to try to gain places. Duncan Cameron's down in 26th. Mark Hayek is currently shown as being in 28th. We're on board with him now. Mark Hayek is under big, big pressure as well, because he's just worked his way past the number 17 Ferrari in the hands for the opening stint of Dennis Anderson, and Anderson is trying to come back at him, but Mark Hayek, I think now, certainly when he gets onto the Mistral, should be able to take the symphonic sounding Lamborghini off into the distance. And now you can see the Viper, another great sounding car, being started by Gaël Lesoudier, former GT3 winner in Morgan's. He is starting to attack the Ferrari, being attacked as well. Looks like the Ecurie Cos BMW is joining in the mix as well up behind him. And the Ecurie Cos BMW is being started by the very quick Ollie Milroy. Right, time for a quick drink for Mark Hayek. Quick check in the mirror, and you can see that on the Mistral straight, the gap does widen between him and the Ferrari. There's the Viper, heading the Gentleman Trophy. Bit of cool air, put your hand out of the window. It's probably Gentleman racing, isn't it? But Mark Hayek's going to need that other hand in a moment when he gets to the end of the straight, or has he got a problem? Is he waving people by? Well, no, he's not. Gaël Lesoudier gets past Dennis Anderson. Mark Hayek checks the mirror, moves across, takes the line for the corner. So just cools himself down for a moment or two. Have a look at the Ecurie Cos BMW though, because there Ollie Milroy diving to the inside. There's going to be another place to be gained here. Up into 29th place goes Ollie Milroy. He's got Joe Twyman and Ollie Bryant with him, so with two Ollies, they've now had to give themselves different names. You've got Brian for Ollie Bryant, you've got Roy for Ollie Milroy. Joe Twyman stays as just good old Joe in that car, and Ollie Milroy going very, very impressively. First full season of GT racing. Many of the circuits are new to him, and he's becoming one of the standouts in the Pro-Am Cup. There are so many drivers, though, that are worth watching. You kind of lose track of one or two of them, but certainly Ollie Milroy has got a good future in these cars ahead of him. And that car going strongly now. It's run by Barwell Motorsport, Mark Lemmer's team. Now, the next Ferrari fight here is for 15th. It's number 20, Ludovic Bardet, under pressure from 51, Gaetano Ardagna. And because they're squabbling, they've dropped away slightly from the sideways Audi ahead, number 40 of Jérôme Demey. And because it's gone sideways, they've now caught back up again, so Demey has to stick out his elbows and try and hang on to the place. Wonderful stuff, this. And you've got the cars 14th, 15th and 16th heading up towards L'École. Gaël Lesoudier runs wide in the Viper, and he's under pressure now. 28th he is, 29th is where you can find 79 BMW of Ollie Milroy. And that's the next battle that is going to develop. Damage there, that's car 18, the Mercedes of Black Falcon Racing. The car being started by Brett Curtis. And that, from memory, got involved, didn't it, early in the race with the Nissan 35. We saw Alex Bunker rejoining after its spin, and that's the other half of the story, the contact between them, and you can see the damage done to the front of number 18. Big Mercedes badge there, bouncing around in the fresh air, and more sticky tape is going to be needed at the end of the first stint for that car to try and secure it. Otherwise, the officials are going to want a word with the team. Now, Edward Sandstrom, we've lost from the race. Let's find out why. Hayley, all yours.
Edward, can you update us on what happened to you out there in the Audi?
It's some transmission failure. I went through Lacine, the fast corner on the backside, and I lost the drive or the power in the car, so I couldn't shift. I couldn't do anything, unfortunately. It's real sorry for the team and sorry for my teammates and sorry for myself. We were on a good way. I think the car was working very well. It felt very good, Audi, and I look forward to a long stint, but what can you do?
You haven't had any transmission issues this weekend at all?
No, I haven't had an issue with the transmission in an Audi during my time with Audi now, so it's really something uncommon.
Thank you.
That's a good point, Edward Sandstrom makes. It's not often you find mechanical drama, certainly not in the transmission for Audis. And that car then out of the race. You've just seen Jérôme Demé dropping back as well, because working his way through has gone D'Artagnan Ardagna. You've also now got 52 Nick Homerson trying to join the party. And Rob Barth is up with them there in the very impressively liveried Von Ryan racing car. Leon Price, with whom Rob drove successfully in the GT Trophy last year, is the man that puts the money up for that. And 72 has had a spin. I've got a feeling that's not for the first time we've seen Gino Forgione off the road. That's got rear damage. Look at that left rear wheel. Ooh, that is going to go as far as the pit lane if he's lucky, and no further. And he boots it and suddenly realises that he's got a rear end of that car that's got a complete mind of its own. And thankfully for him, he is near the pit lane. And that's where car 72 is going to come and where it's going to stay. It's very similar to what we saw for 74 Porsche of Dylan Dirdala early in the race. So another one bites the dust, limps in. 72 coming slowly into the pits, it says on the timing screens. Absolutely, and that's where it's going to stay. The sister car of Davide Rigon continues to lead the way. There it is. And it is now done. 14 laps of the race. And now number 40, Jérôme Demé, is off the road and with damage. And that doesn't look self-induced either, does it? There are bits lying on the ground. The right-hand side of the car has taken a big whack. And I think Jérôme Demé is about to clamber out of the car. Let's have a look. The car is stranded. It also looks like it's got broken front suspension, that wheel at a jaunty angle. And let's try and piece it all together. This is at the end of the Mistral, Signe, and Demé, is he going to puncture tyre? He does. The car sits down, the tyre has let go, and it spins, and there's contact with somebody else, possibly an equity that right, going through, and then a big whack. 23, Mark Blundell, right into the side. And yet again, United Autosports have problems. And Mark Blundell, ex-Grand Prix racer, of course, the more winner, experienced driver, nowhere to go, bang into the side of the Audi. So 2 more cars we have lost with damage, when it was all started by number 40 having a puncture, Jérôme Demé. You saw the car snake, and you could see it sit down as it went through Signe. And then the puncture, the spin, the contact, and 23, Mark Blundell, into the side of it. And also up the road, by the look of it, there is a Ferrari that has stopped. This is the spinning Audi, and the McLaren, bang! Nowhere to go. Big impact. And it's a very good job that it was on that side of the car, not the driver's side, I think. So yellow flags out at that part of the circuits from Signe up towards Beausset. Demé is okay. Maybe a bit sore after that impact. But he's going no further, I'm afraid to say, as far as the race is concerned. As the leaders power over the line, Davide Rigon now getting involved in traffic. You're on board in number 11, Jean-Claude Lanier, who has fallen way down the order. The car run by Ruffier Racing, and it's going to be one to watch, I think, later in the race, because you've got Laurent Pasquale, the reigning French GT champion, and the very quick Mike Parisi, who's also been successful in a variety of GT championships in years past. We're going to go safety car, having talked about its absence during full race conditions in the previous 2 rounds because of not just battered cars but also debris on the road. We are going to go safety car, and we are about 16 minutes away from the hour mark. Hour on the clock rather than an hour of the race. We've still got 2 hours and 29 minutes to go, but therefore it's too early for anybody to think about a pit stop. And there you can see the reason for the safety car. Off is 23 with lots of damage, Mark Blundell's car, and number 40 in the background. So safety car deployed, and number 71, please slow down, asked the race director. That's the leader, because they need him to slow, and then the safety car can scoop him up, and everybody can then line up behind him. So this is going to bring down some of the gaps. Jean-Claude Lanier is 41st, incidentally. I was talking about him a moment ago. The lead gap, Davide Rigon to Antoine Deltoise, 7 seconds. Not an enormous gap, but it's going to be reduced now under the safety car. The other thing to bear in mind is where the traffic is around them. But you can see there damaged cars, but importantly as well, they need to get the debris off the road. There's a big chunk of it just on the outside of the seat. Of course, what they don't want is for people to run over that and have their own punctures. So 2 hours and 28 minutes to go. And a very lively first half hour of the race. And a number of quick front-running cars, all with problems. There is the leader. David is on at the wheel, working his way up now towards the completion of a lap. The former BMW racer, drove in Italian Formula Renault. He was the Euro Series 3000 champion. Drove in GP2 for a time. He's driven in GT2 GT cars for Scuderia Italia. Super League really put him on the map when he drove for the Beijing team with great success. He has driven in Superstars, Formula Renault 3.5. There's not much he hasn't driven, there's not much he's not been quick in and successful. And now turning his attention to GT3 cars. And still, the timing screen says, please slow down. And now he's going to get the message because he's caught the safety car. See the amount of rubber that's jumped already. 41 there, goes a lap down, which is the Audi of Robert Hissam within the Gentleman Trophy. Gael Lesoudier is ahead of Christian Kelders in the Gentleman Trophy at the moment. It's the order. Davide Rigon to Mark Henrici there, top 2 in Pro Cup, 24.5 seconds, but again that's going to be reduced. There's Nico Verdon running 3rd in Pro Cup at the moment. And the safety car has a green light on it at the moment, and the drivers are being told to ignore that. So they don't want the safety car to be overtaken, so it's on the timing screen. The teams tell the drivers to ignore any green light that they may see if it's still on. The race director trying to get that extinguished as quickly as he possibly can. So Davide Rigon from Anthony Beltoise is the top 2. Let's look at the classes. Pro Cup, Ferrari ahead of Porsche, ahead of McLaren. BMW 36, Stefan Lemre is 4th. McLaren 22, the surviving United Autosports car of Matt Bell, runs 5th. And then number 1, Christopher Mies, is in 6th spot. That's how the Pro Cup looks at the moment. With 7th in class, number 3, Bas Linders. And again, thanks to these gaps being reduced, that too should be a car that's going to gain ground on the restart. Okay, let's head back down to the pit lane and catch up on news. Let's rejoin Haley.
Greg, what a disappointing finish for the team.
Yeah, it's. I think Jérôme, in a straight lane, the rear tire explodes completely dead, and he spin on a corner, and McLaren smashed him, and I think the race is finished now for us.
The Audis haven't really been on the pace this weekend, so to start on the fastest Audi this weekend, it was quite an achievement.
Yes, I am happy for that because I'm pretty quicker than WRT during all race, Monza, Silverstone and here. Hopefully next weekend we will beat them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great shame that we lose that car. Greg Gilver, I was saying before the race, was going to be one to watch in the last stint. Well, hold that thought. Hold it until Spa, when the next round of the championship is going to be the annual 24-hour race. I reckon this could be a few more laps under the safety car yet, because the 2 battered cars need retrieving. Pro-Am Cup then, being headed by Anthony Beltoise from the Mercedes of Dennis Rettra, and then 3rd in the class, Arno Santamato. 6th overall, that car going better than ever. We've seen it this year. 4th in class is Bonetti's Ferrari, ahead of Petrobelli's Ferrari, and then 6th in the class is number 20, Ludovic Badet. The race director getting very keen that the drivers queue up behind the safety car rather than try and go up alongside it as 1 or 2 were doing. There is 34 Porsche then, the class leading car within Pro-Am Cup. Anthony Beltoise going very, very well at the moment. We've got Gino Forgione after his couple of spins just rejoining the race from pit lane. But that car again is going to fall a long way down. Anthony Beltoise, we were just looking at a moment ago, the son of the former Grand Prix winner, Jean-Pierre Beltoise, and a successful single-seater racer and sports car driver. He's raced in the Carrera Cup in France, 3 times a champion in fact. He's raced in French GT and in the Le Mans Series. So Anthony Beltoise, an experienced driver, putting that to good use now as the cars come over the line. You can see the way that the drivers are weaving around, trying to maintain the warmth in the tyres, ready for the restart. And Davide Rigon leads the way, but the gap that he had now much, much reduced. Stacked up behind him. Now, just to keep tabs on where the championship leading car in Pro Cup is, 11th overall now, Bas Linders. might be a bit uncharitable to say some of those places given to that car by others' dramas, but I'm afraid it is true that with fun and games going on ahead, accidents or mechanical problems or spins, the car has moved up the order as a consequence. Now there is Gaël Le Soudier in the Viper, currently leading the Gentleman Trophy, and going very strongly ahead of Christian Kelder's Porsche, and then Jan Brunstedt's Audi, Robert Hissam's Audi, and the delayed Georges Cabin Lamborghini, 5th in class at the moment. The Viper has been a very strong car this year, and experienced drivers as well. Gaël Le Soudier joined by Gilles Vannelet and Luc Paillard. Jean-Claude Lanier getting on 39 now. He's got the Porsche after, again, people dropping out ahead of him, but it's coming back into the mix a little bit. And of course, safety cars, when you've got the slower driver, it does help because it means in real terms they're losing less time. Now the Jaguar we've not seen very much of, but I'm afraid it is in the pit lane. This is the car that runs from the Emile Frey Racing team, Gabriele Gardel, one of the stars of Ferraris in the FIA GT Championship of years past, doing the opening stint. The car never got to race at Silverstone because the engine let go in the bronze test. It has got to the race, but clearly problems again for that car that therefore tumbles down the order. And Mark Hayek still trying to cool himself down. Riding with him in the number 24 Lamborghini, currently in 25th place. Still makes a great noise, that car, and when the car starts to accelerate, then the point will be proved even more so. Arty shot of the cars coming onto the Mistral straight, safety car boards held by the marshals, yellow flags being waved, and 22 minutes before we get to the end of the first hour. Now this, of course, starts to help people on fuel. Now you can see the 35 Nissan, after its earliest spin, Alex Buncombe has got that car to 26, just ahead of Ollie Milroy. And also there, a quick look in the pack, David Jones, running 29th in the Pressy Spark Mercedes. David and his brother Godfrey with Mike Jordan, all stars of British GT racing. Mike recently at the British Touring Car Championship as well. And that car, which had a funny wiring loom drama yesterday, they got that changed, lost a bit of track time as a result, but now the car going better, they've also changed the setup of it, and so in qualifying this morning, a lot more optimism for the Pressy Spark team. Number 60 McLaren, which is being started by Stephen Jelly, contrary to what they have done in other races where the Drapers have gone first and Stephen's brought the car home. Stephen does the opening stint, and currently the car is 21st ahead of the McLaren of Klaus Hummel. Progress of Stuart Hall up to 23rd, whereas Rob Bell is now 19th in the other Gulf liveried McLaren, and that car having started on the 24th row of the grid. So Rob Bell up to 19th, as you kind of expect from Rob because he's just such a quick driver, has worked his way up the order. And the next guy he's going to have a go at is Mark Sword's Audi. Now, it's not been a good race as we've seen for United Autosports. Let's catch up with Richard Dean.
Richard, can you let us know whether Mark's okay?
Well, I've just seen him walk out of the medical car into the medical centre, so that's a good sign. I'm just going to double check everything's okay.
A disappointing finish for the team, though.
Yeah, he was going really, really well from, you know, down in the P30s and up running into the top 20 and quick. He'd made some strong progress, so yeah, I'm just more concerned that he's okay, but he's a big guy and he's a strong guy, and I'm sure he's fine. We'll just double check on him, but we've got one other car still in the top 10, so not all lost.
Thank you.
Richard Dean, the other half of United Autosports, with Zach Brown, who would have driven 23, the now damaged car. And just to recap why we have the safety car, punctured tyre for Jérôme Demey, who loses it at the very fast senior right-hander. He spins and the car just moves across the track, and Mark Blundel's gap suddenly vanishes and he harpoons the Audi. Does a lot of damage to the side of number 40 and to the front of the McLaren as well. Big hit, but as Richard Dean says, Mark, yeah, he's a stocky guy, a very experienced driver, and might be a bit sore tomorrow, but I'm sure he'll be okay. Strong cars these days in GT racing. There's 31 Georges Cabin's Lamborghini back in the race, lots of places lost. Circulating on track ahead of the number 70 Race Art BMW. Roger Gravel's at the wheel of it, 33rd that car runs at the moment. The Jaguar is back in the race, albeit delayed. And 44th is where you find Gabriele Gardel. Right, Jean-Claude Lanier pits. And I think we're going to have the first driver change of the race here, potentially. Won't be a very long stint for Jean-Claude, but possibly they will do a quick swap over now. So keep an eye to that as the Drivers continue to circulate under the safety car. So Davide Rigon versus Anthony Beltoise, they're the top two, but I suspect given the way the Ferrari has been going, it should be able to pull away on the restart. Now we are 18 minutes away from the hour mark. One or two people might gamble here, bring a car in early, particularly if it's got a slower driver on board. Others, I think, will try and stretch this to the hour mark for fuel. And there is what's left of a McLaren, Marc Blundell, who was going well, but a very badly damaged car. Now, Greg Franchi we saw in retirement earlier on. Let's catch up with the dramas for him. Hayley, back down to you.
Greg, sadly it's not been your season so far. What's happened here in Paul Ricard?
Yes, it's not a good start for the season. I don't know for the car. We have a problem with transmission or engine. I don't know now. The mechanic has analyzed the car. And okay, now 24 hours of Spa is a new race, it's a home race, and try to win this race.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So another top team with a problem. Suggesting all race it's going to be an intriguing, fascinating race as ever. Well, even more so now because you've got some of the potential front runners out of the race already. That leaves the way clear for rather unusual cars to get up to the pointy end, and there is still 2 hours 17 minutes to go, so a lot can yet happen. Debris on the track on the left hand side of turn 10, the race director is warning people about, that being the senior corner where we've had the accident. And so the drivers now work their way towards the completion of lap 19. Safety car boards are shown to the number 11 Porsche that has had a driver change. Laurent Pasquale has taken the car over. And you can see he's trying to play catch-up to the safety car, and with a clear road ahead of him, he's absolutely flying. He sees cars ahead, gets to the incident zone, decides he'd better back out of that. Marshall's trying to get across the circuit to clear the road. And yes, he wants to catch up with the safety car, but he is going very rapidly. Into the pit lane has come the second place Porsche now. 34, Anthony Beltoise has come in. And quite a few teams, I think, expecting cars, because you've also got number 1 Christopher Mies, Bas Linders is in, Gaetano Ardagna is in. So more and more cars now electing to make these pit stops. Gaetano Ardagna there pops out. I think I'm right in saying Dan Brown's going to take the car over. We'll double check in a second. Bas Linders should give way to Marcus Paltela, who normally does the first stint, but they're gambling on a bit of rain mid-race and they want Marcus out when it's wet. So Bas Linders scampers away, and the fueling done. The tyres are now going to be changed. So again, this changes the order. And it's going to put 75 Porsche up into second place now. A car that is shown as having Mark Goossens behind the wheel at the moment, but Mark Henrici started and it's not pitted. So I think maybe they've clicked the transponder into the wrong place. Right, it's resolved itself now. Mark Henrici back behind the wheel, or still behind the wheel I should say, but briefly it was pretending to be Mark Goossens. So there's the Beltoise car making its way down the pit lane. It will of course lose ground overall, and as it heads down the pit lane it's lost track position to the number 1 Audi. There's 51 Ferrari set to go. So again, the order becomes somewhat jumbled as a consequence of all of this. Number 3 does go the way now of Marcus Paltela, and number 4 has come in as well, the second of the Mark VDS BMWs that was started by Bert Longin, and Mike Hesemans to take that car over. Tyre change for Mark VDS, team being kept busy on the second of the 2 cars down in the pit lane. And the car is dropped down, the engine will fire, and in fact we've had a whole stream of cars coming into the pits, because you might as well do the pit stop now. You're going to lose less time by doing it under the safety car conditions like this. Even if it's not the full hour, it doesn't really matter. You can top up the fuel and do the driver change. Number 90, for example, there you can see the Mercedes of the Joneses. That has just rejoined after a pit stop. We'll try and have a quick update on drivers in a moment. So we've got number 1 from Christopher Mies now going to Christopher Hasse. 4 has gone the way of Mike Hesemans. And in the Pro-Am, 34 has not yet updated itself. It was Beltoise that brought it in, but we've not yet had confirmation of who's going to do the second stint. I guess would be Roland Berville in that car. And of course, all of this is enabling one or two others that are staying out to creep up the order. Mark Henrici, for example, now getting himself up to second. Dennis Retter to third. Nico Verdonk going strongly up into fourth place. The number 5 McLaren. Car number 90 Mercedes is now Godfrey Jones. And 51 Ferrari. Yes, I was right, it is Dan Brown that took over that. So as the cars are currently on lap 20, still the marshals are busy working to clear the circuit. The safety car instructed now to speed to 100 to 110 kilometers an hour. So if the speed increases, that's always a good sign that the race director wants people to follow, to pick up their own pace, get the temperature in the tyres ready for the restart. More for the pit lane. 42 Dennis Retterer comes in. Also now 42 Santamato comes in. Stefan Lemeret is in, Ludovic Bade is in, Nick Homerson is in, Mark Soord is in, and number 19 also down the pit lane, Riccardo Bruchin. So there's an awful lot happening in the pit lane. There's 52, Nick Homerson's car, and look at the whole traffic jam that comes pouring in now. George Cabana's come in 31, Mickey Monras, a late extra to that car. 58, Christian Kelders has come in as well, and the fans at the last corner at Virage du Pont watching cars, in some cases carrying on, in other cases diving for the pit lane, including there Christian Kelders. In the background is the number 7 Porsche that has come in. That was the car again in Pro-Am, started by Miro Konopka. So up and down the pit lane, lots happening. Out of the Porsche gets Christian Kelders. As there, 21 has come in. Now that was Duncan Cameron to give way to Mike Edmonds. Matt Griffin will do the last stint in that car. And it's good to have MTech in the race after its dramas over the course of qualifying. Koen Wouters, I should say, has taken over number 14 Mercedes. There you can see 36 BMW on its way down the pit lane. Stefan Lemeret brought in the car. And it is about to blast its way from the pit exit, back on track. Porsche getting new tyres put on as well. So more and more of the teams electing to do the driver change now, whilst the race is at this reduced pace. More and more people weaving around trying to maintain warmth in the tyres. Not that many changes within the Pro Cup. Jeffrey Van Hooydonk has taken over from Stefan Lemeret in 36. We know about Mark VDS, but other than that, quite a few of the cars remaining in the original driver's hands. Number 8 has also just served a pit stop, Hans-Guido Riegel, giving way to Mike Sturzberg in the Haribo Porsche. So the field queued up behind the safety car, turning its way now through Senior. Stuart Hall staying out at 69. Now they're number 3 BMW. After its pit stop, of course, the car drops down and it's going to go racing at the end of this lap. The race director has announced it to the teams that we'll go back to green flag conditions at the end of this next lap of the race, this being lap 21. And therefore, those that haven't made a pit stop are going to do it under green flag conditions and lose more time than those that have just served the first of the 2 regulation pit stops. So again, this is going to help one or two of the teams within their strategy as the cars now accelerate their way up toward Virage du Pont. Now, who's going to dive for the pit lane on this lap, if anybody, out of that leading group? There's one slower car, which is the 98 Audi between the top 2, and Mark Henrici looks like he's going to come into the pit lane. Yes, so the second place car will pit, and more behind him as well are heading for the pit lane, and all of that means they're going to lose a bit of ground. 22 comes in, that being Matt Bell. Also in has come 59 Alessandro Bonetti, and 82 Gael de Soudier comes in the Viper. Teams running out into the pit lane to try and identify their car, and that is the Viper that arrives at a very jaunty angle. And I think the team are going to have to wriggle that back into a proper place before they can do the driver change for Gilles Vandelay or Luc Payard to take over the car. So Davide Rigon leads Nico Verdonk now because of Mark Henrici heading into the pit lane. We've got the Jaguar coming in as well to serve its first mandatory stop, if you like. It's had an unscheduled stop, and now for a driver change for that car. So continuing shuffling of the order, and we are 9 minutes away from the end of the first hour. A lot has happened. I know we've had those few safety car laps, but it's been busy. And now Davide Rigon is trying to pull clear as there Jérôme Demey's Audi is brought back on the flatbed around the maintenance road, around the perimeter of the circuit. So Rigon, foot to the floor, trying to pull clear. Nico Verdonk going after him in the McLaren, the best we've seen out of that car all year. And Nico Verdonk, who is joined in it by Jack Clark and Edward Mondron. It's one to watch, I think, over the course of the race. Rob Barth looking to gain ground there as well, trying to get himself up with Stephen Jelly. Jelly, in fact, has worked his way past Rob Barth, to be fair, in a straight line. And you've got Olivier Pla up into 4th place in the Porsche, and he's looking to gain ground again, going through Senior, because he's on the back of Jacopo Petrobelli in the Ferrari. Petrobelli goes wide all over the curb onto the runoff, and behind them, working his way up to the front, a tremendous effort this by Rob Bell in the Gulf Racing McLaren. This should bring a smile to the face of Dave Price. That might be one for Haley to go and investigate at the end of the stint. Not just a word from Rob, but also from Dave Price, the vastly experienced bracket pensioner, bracket team manager who runs this car. Mike Wainwright will take it over, but look at the way that Bell is hunting down this battle ahead. Petrobelli versus Pla, and very, very shortly there's going to be a mirror full of McLaren, because Rob Bell is almost up with them then now as the cars turn their way up towards Virage Dupont, heading up towards the timing line once again. And past the pits they come. Davide Rigon leading Nico Verdonk. Behind them, 3rd is Petrobelli, 4th Pla, 5th is Rob Bell. Stephen Jelly is 6th, Rob Barth is 7th, Klaus Hummel staying out in what was 8th, but I'm just looking to see whether there might have been a change coming over the line, because Mark Hayek is up with him as well now. And 10th in the recovering Nissan is Alex Buncombe. That car going well now. 98 there in the mix after a pit stop. That car has been taken over by Jan Brunstedt. Remember, that was the Gentleman Trophy winning car from Silverstone. Jan Brunstedt relieves the start driver Jochen Mangs. Nico Verdonk has lapped him. And a McLaren fight. Stephen Jelly getting away from Rob Barth. Behind them is Klaus Hummel. And there's contact, is there? Because Mark Hayek spins. The Nissan of Alex Buncombe was right on his tail. Did they touch? Well, Mark Hayek spins. And the Blancpain rider Lamborghini is stranded on the road. It fires. It gets going now. And staggers back towards the circuit, trying to keep out of harm's way. Has it suffered any damage? Was there contact? Certainly it looked as though the Nissan was very, very close. And Mark Hayek, does he get going? Is there damage? Let's see. Yes, there is damage. Punctured tyre possibly on the back of it. Looks like it, doesn't it? As the car limps on. And you can also see the damage where bodywork's been pushed in. So Mark Hayek is heading for the pit lane. And he's heading for, of course, a very long lap here. He's got to be so careful with this car that he doesn't go so quickly that he does more damage. So let's see. The Nissan closes onto the tail. Now, did the tyre let go and spin, or was the contact what punctured the tyre and caused that damage? Hard to see from that angle, but either way, Mark Hayek rotates, and I think he's going to park it. He's on the radio to the team, and I think the instruction is leave it where it is. Could well be the end, sadly, of the Lamborghini that was going so strongly. So meantime, we've got Davide Rigon leading Nico Verdonk, Giacomo Petrobelli 3rd, Olivier Pla 4th, Rob Bell 5th, Stephen Jelly 6th. There is the number 52 Ferrari that Nick Homerson brought into the pit lane. I'm just trying to scroll down to find where that car now runs, because within the Pro-Am Cup, it's one to watch. Another of the AF Corsa fleet of cars. You've got Olivier Pla now having got himself past Petrobelli up into 3rd place. Tucked up behind is the number 9 McLaren in the hands of Rob Bell, and Stephen Jelly has now come into the pit lane. The Draper brothers sharing that car. Mark Hayek about to clamber out of 24, going no further then. Two Ferrari still being shown as Nick Homerson. We get a replay of the contact that turned around the Lamborghini. Yes, and a frustrated gesture from Mark Hayek to say what was all that about. So clearly he feels that it was the Nissan that triggered that incident, not the tyre going down. No further action is to be taken, though, between cars 24 and 35. That is on the timing screen. However, the team manager of car 41, and that's the Santilot Racing Audi from Gentleman Trophy, the team manager being summoned to see the race director. So more and more stories to shake out of all of this. There's Mike Sturzberg with the number 8 Porsche, still pushing on. And 43, which is the car started by Marc Soord, with the Gilles Vannelet. Now it is Viper tucked up behind. Now the Viper has dropped back into 2nd in class. It's about to dispense with the Audi, but that's not going to do much in terms of the class position. It's going to be an overall place gained. Now with Patrice Madeleine at the wheel, his first outing in the championship. regular in the French GT Championship. Now, number 1 Audi, the surviving Team WRT Audi, currently running in 13th place. Dan Brown there, getting himself past number 50, which is Jack Gerber, doing the long first stint in that car before Marco Ciocci takes it over. So Jack Gerber, who was up to 12, dropping back a bit now. And 72, which is the delayed car that was started by Gino Forgione, Claude-Yves Gosselin, and then Matthias Besch, and the other 2 drivers of that car. That's trying to work its way back into contention as well. And it's Matthias Besch at the wheel of 72 now. In fact, the car a long way down in 48th place. Alex Bunker has brought 35 Nissan into the pit lane. The car having crept its way into the top 10 may be a good thing that comes in now, not only in terms of the driver change, but also to have a look at any damage. And a different kind of message, this. The team manager of car number 30 and driver Craig Wilkins, both to the race director. Now, that car was started by Craig Wilkins, so what has he done wrong? And it should be Peter Belshaw, I think, given the normal trend of that team for the next stint. The team and driver having to go to the race director now, as you look at number 11, Laurent Pasquale at the wheel of the Porsche. Yes, number 30 is Peter Belshaw. Aaron Scott to do the last stint, all being well in that car. Laurent Pasquale then, having relieved Jean-Claude Lanier of driving duties in this car, pushing on. Trying to get himself into the mix as well now. Because of the way that they stopped early, believe it or not, this car's up into 9th place. So Laurent Pasquale, in a car that was, what, 44th early on in the hands of Jean-Claude Lanier, has really benefited from an early stop, getting onto the back of the queue, and everybody else peeling out of the way in front. So that car now, Laurent Pasquale, has worked his way very much into contention. I think it was the first one to make a mandatory stop. 44th it was, and now the car going very, very strongly indeed, running, as I say, 9th place. As you've got Ollie Milroy, who is still behind the wheel of the Acuriacos BMW, tucked up behind Rob Barth. They're battling for 6th and 7th places, and another car in trouble now. Is that Nico Verdonk, conceivably, or is it the Klaus Hummel car? It's the Klaus Hummel car. You can see the Quaife sticker on it, because Phil Quaife is one of the 2 co-drivers. So 62, that is, in other words, off by the side of the road. Was going pretty strongly early on, as now over the line for 3rd, 4th, 5th. Olivier Pla comes through ahead of Giacomo Petrobelli, ahead of Rob Bell, and Bell in the Gulf Racing McLaren is about to try to make a move. Look, goes to the outside line as they head now down towards Verrières. Can he go all the way around the outside? No, he can't. Giacomo Petrobelli, who runs in the Pro-Am Cup, but is a deceptively fast driver. You tend to think, well, he's in the Pro-Am category, he won't be that quick. Don't think that at all. He is very rapid indeed, and you can see he's holding his own here at the moment. He's running in a strong 4th place. Keeping Rob Bell at bay for the moment. There's the Jaguar, car number 80, losing out to Rob Barth on track for the moment. You've also got number 12 in that mix. That's the lapped Blanc Bachelier Malagol driven Ferrari. And as Ollie Milroy worked his way through traffic, we've got a sideways Porsche in the background. Is that the Laurent Pasquale Porsche? It is. He hangs onto a big slide and just about gets away with it. And that, of course, was the corner where we saw Mark Hayek in strife a couple of laps ago. Well, down to the pit lane, Haley has managed to find a bit of news about that. So Mark Hyatt, we know, out of the race, but Haley, I think, has more news on that.
Hey, Addis, the deal is he has a broken suspension due to the collision with the Nissan.
Right, OK, that explains it. Thanks, Haley, because we could see the puncture, but we couldn't see the broken suspension. So broken suspension it is that takes the car out of the race. It's a big car, that Nissan, and it's a pretty heavy car. If it hits you, you know about it. And Mark Hayek, broken suspension, out of the race. So getting the news from the pit lane, and of course it's news that we're having about front-running cars ordinarily that are in trouble. So we are just about at the end of the first hour of the race. There's a yellow flag out on track because of that McLaren stationary. And looking back from Laurent Pasquale's car at Rob Barth. Now, number 1, Christopher Hauser, is coming into the mix as well, and so in the background is Dan Brown, the young Brit, who's very impressive in these sorts of cars. Battle is well and truly on then, as they fight their way up through the next sequence of corners, heading up towards Village and then Tours, and then the Virage du Pont at the end of the lap. Now Laurent Pasquale is looking a little bit smoky, I think, from the back. Now, we saw him get sideways early on in the lap. Yeah, it's on fire, that's why it's smoky. There's just a little flash of flame out of the back, and that car is going to have to head for the pit lane. There it is, flame out as it comes out of Virage du Pont for the pit lane, and the marshals are going to be there with extinguishers. So that car that had just got itself, remember, from 44th up into 9th place, heads down the pit lane. And does it go to the team, or does it go to the marshals? It's going to go to the team, but the man with the extinguisher rushes over and tries to extinguish the blaze. Can the car rejoin from this? Laurent Pasquale opens the door. And that's the view from the back of the car now. Extinguishers everywhere. The team won't want too many extinguishers sprayed over all of that, because if the car has a chance of continuing, it's the devil's own job to get all the powder out. But that may well be the end of that car, especially if it was an engine drama that's caused the fire. So Laurent Pasquale has legged it to a place of safety, and the Porsche, run by Ruffier Racing, sitting in the pit lane looking a bit forlorn now. The team trying to have a look at it, the SRO technical team looking at it as well, and a bit more extinguishers is needed. I think this is one of those fires that doesn't want to go out. More problems for Georges Cabin, number 31. The car has been given over to Romain Brandella, but Georges Cabin watches his car stationary out on the side of the circuit, and the smoke coming out of that one as well. How many are going to get finished this race? It is, with just 1 hour gone, the hardest race in terms of attrition that we've had so far this year. Amazing what dry running could do, isn't it? Race order, Davide Rigon leading the way. There's 49 also now up the order. It has got Jean-Marc Bachelier at the wheel of the car at the moment, having started it indeed. So he's done a very long first stint, but now he runs out wide and is about to lose places by the look of it, because we've got number 1 nipping by. Christopher Haase goes through. The red, white and blue Ferrari is going to drop down here, and will continue to drop down, because you've got the Ryan McLaren not that far behind it. Race leader Davide Rigon has now done 27 laps. He's on to lap 28, therefore he's still clear of Nico Verdonk. Those two yet to stop. And how can the number 1 Audi get itself back into the mix? Remember that this car, under the balance of performance, is 50 kilos heavier than the last time it raced at Silverstone. And there's a slow McLaren in the background. Now, is that Rob Barth's car coming into the pit lane? I think it is, 88. Yeah, Rob's done his work. So he had an hour behind the wheel of the car, and he brings it in. There it is. And Leon Price, I think I'm right in saying, he's going to do the middle stint. Jordan Grosjean to bring it home this time. Now, 34 Porsche. Anthony Beltoise, having gone strongly early in the race, has given that car to Roland Berville, but it has dropped quite a long way down because of when it made its stop. So Berville now is in 12th place, but he's under big pressure. Got Mike Hazelman incidentally behind them in 14th spot, and Romain Brandella's car slowly limping its way back to the pit lane. How is Marcus Paltler getting on? 10th at the start of the lap in the number 3 BMW. There's 50 Jack Gerber, and 14 Koen Wouters tucked up behind him. Roland Berville has gained a spot away from Jack Gerber since the start of the lap, so number 34 is working its way back up the order in class. Hits the Mistral straight, and Rob Barth walks away with his cushion. Rather different frame for Rob than Leon Price, and good job, well done that by Rob Barth early on to bring the car well up the order, and that's what he's paid to do, be the star. And then Leon Price and Jordan Grosjean will bring the car home. Bit of a wobble for Jack Gerber going towards Senior. He's on the inside there, and he stays ahead of Koen Wouters in the number 14 Mercedes. Hangs onto the place, but now up the inside goes Mike Hazelman, so another place gain for the Mark VDS BMW. And look behind, the 36 BM in the hands of Jeffrey Van Hooydonk is there as well, and another wobble. Jack Gerber goes off the road over the curb. Easy peasy to gain places now. Hazelman goes past, Van Hooydonk goes past, Wouters goes past, and the number 20 Ferrari, which has now got Patrice Guillard at the wheel, is also joining in the mix. And 52, question mark over who is driving that, is still shown as being Nick Homerson. But it was Nick Homerson that started, and the car made an early pit stop, so try and deduce who it is that's behind the wheel of that car. Jack Gerber still fighting to try to hang on to places as the cars turn their way up towards the end of the lap. He's getting his long stint out of the way early on, I think, in that car before he gives it over to Marco Ciocci. Past the pits they go. Ferrari's overlapping as they head down then towards the first corner. I'd offer you 52 being Louis Macchio's, looking at the pace of it at the moment. So, again, the team electing to put Andrea Bertolini as the star in for the last stint. Now, Jeffrey Van Hooydonk has got himself up past Mike Hazelman's now. That puts 36 into the top 10. That car going strongly as it powers its way up then towards the left-hander of L'École onto the Mistral straight. The Van Hooydonk car, one of last year's BMWs, and therefore not handicapped quite as much as the current cars under the balance of performance. And that's why that one is going what you might think better than the Mark VDS racing cars. Jeffrey Van Hooydonk there trying to fend off the attack from Hesemans, who's got Koen Wouters coming back at him in the Mercedes, and the Mercedes loves the Mistral straight because it's got all of this grunt and go, and it now powers its way down towards Senior. How's the race leader getting on? Davide Rigon, is he heading for the pit lane possibly this time? Let's see. The leader comes towards the timing line, into the pit lane. So number 71, Davide Rigon, gets 28 laps out of that car in the first stint. In he comes, and a job well done. Goes past 49 that has come in. Jean-Marc Bachelier having done the first stint in 49, as we were looking at. And Nico Verdonk is in as well in the McLaren. So once again, the pit lane is the place to look. Kessel Racing goes to work. Fuel, tyres, driver, one out, one in. Daniel Zampieri was the man that put the car on pole position. Also coming in is the orange McLaren, having its best showing of the season so far, the Boots and Gignon racing car. Nico Verdonk to hand it over. Still the best lap of the race, incidentally, done early on by Mirko Venturi. And can I get all excited about a Curious? You just caught a glimpse of the BMW, but Ollie Milroy, now with people pitting, has got that car up to third place. I know in a way it's a phony third because it's been helped by other people making pit stops, but even so, the car going great guns, and he has just done his best lap of the race at 2 minutes 0.7. Back into the race goes 49 after the pit stop, and also Jack Gerber has now come in. It was a longish first stint from the South African, but he has come in. So again, the order shuffles. So lots happening on track, lots happening in the pit lane as well. Let's rejoin Haley with Mike Parisi.
Mike, we saw Laurent do a quick exit out of the Porsche there. What was the cause of the fire?
The exhaust exploded during the second stint of Laurent Pasquali. So the fire was on the car. We are very disappointed because the team did a very good strategy, and we will be the future leader of the race of the category. So we are quite disappointed, but there is no too much problem on the car. So we are happy, but difficult for us. Yes.
Thank you.
It's a shame as well we don't get to see Mike Parisi late in the race, because as we've seen in GT1 and GT3 European Championships, another very, very quick driver. Now, number 21 has come into the pit lane, which was Duncan Cameron that started it. Mike Edmonds takes the car over, this being the M-Tech Ferrari. 75, now that, after its pit stop, under a green flag, has fallen back to 23rd place. Xavier Marson at the wheel. And Xavier, we know, is very fast. He's got a bit of a job on his hands, I'll grant you, to work himself up into contention. He's got number 70 ahead of him as Olivier Pla pits. 70 now with the car being driven by Niels Bavhaus. And in comes Olivier Pla. Let's see who he's going to hand that car over to in a moment. So the order continues to shuffle itself around, and 71 has now been taken over by the man that put the car on pole position, Daniel Zampieri. So very much one to watch. Now, with also 57 having come in, Giacomo Petrobelli, that's going to give us 51, Dan Brown, into the lead of the race. And that, remember, is in its second stint, because it was started by Caetano Adani. So Dan Brown leads the race on merit from number 1 Christopher Hauser, and then number 3 Marcus Paltela. So that early safety car, and when people pitted, has had a major impact on the order now. And you've got Dan Brown leading the Pro-Am Cup and leading the race outright, and there is 71, Daniel Zampieri at the wheel, but that car has dropped way back into 14th place. Now it's going to gain on this next lap because of other people pitting ahead of it, but the safety car negated the lead, and by staying out there, they've, I'm afraid, I wouldn't have thought, made the best strategy on this. They've not made the right call. That car losing places. They would have been advised, like others, to get the car in the pit lane early on and lose less time under the safety car conditions. You see the way it helped the AF Corsa team with 51. You see the way it's helped WRT and also Mark VDS. And Mike Hesemans has just done number 4's best lap of the race, running 9th at the moment. 83 set to rejoin. Olivier Pla along with Philippe Gache and Eric Clement. It would make sense with Eric Clement in for the middle stint, and then Philippe Gache to be a hero at the end, because he, like Olivier Pla, very quick, very experienced driver. So we've got Giacomo Petrobelli having made his pit stop, and Alessandro Bonaccini will take over that car. Now, has it been able to keep the race lead? In fact, I say that Dan Brown has inherited the lead on the pit stops. Let's just check that at the end of the next lap. Now, you've also got debris on the track at turn 3, which is the approach to the chicane. It's on the driver's right-hand side, so we'll try and work out from whom that has come, as we've got the Ferrari battle here. 51, Dan Brown, and behind him is 72. Now that's the delayed Forgione car that's got Matthias Besch at the wheel of it, that's in 43rd place. So it's not a proper battle, that. It's Matthias Besch trying to claw himself back into contention, and Dan Brown does go through as the leader from Christopher Hasse in second place. There is the debris lying on the road. So the race order is 51 Brown ahead of number 1 Hasse. In third place now is number 3 Marcus Paltela, 4th is 36 Van Hooydonk, 5th is number 14 Wouters, 6th is 34 Roland Berville, 7th is 52, it is Louis Mackils, I'm right, it's updated on the screen. 8th was Mark Kesemans in number 4, 9th now is the 42 Kevin Despenes Ferrari, and the top 10 is rounded out by number 20 Patrice Gouillard. There number 5 McLaren, another one that has stopped late and has fallen down to 21st place. Get an update in a moment on who took over that car. It's still being shown as Nico Verdonk, but that will update very shortly, I'm sure. And 17 Ferrari also pushing hard now, gaining ground on the inside there. So that was a car that was being delayed and spinning, in fact, early on in the race. Another car that's crept into the picture, and it's one to keep an eye to, is number 8, Mike Stursberg, benefiting from an early pit stop to relieve Hans-Guido Riegel, and you've got Christian Menzel, former Carrera Cup Deutschland champion, to take the car over. And that, I think, in the last stint is going to be another one to watch. Porsches have gone pretty well around here so far this weekend. Mike Kesemans has just done another personal best lap in number 4 BMW. Jeffrey Van Hooydonk creeping into the mix as well, 4th overall in 36. And Xavier Marcin in 75, currently in 15th place at the moment. That's another one to look for as he works his way up the order. Diving to the inside, a spin for the McLaren number 5, and that undoes some of the good work from Nico Verdonk. Round it goes, and the car at the first corner, Verrier tries to rejoin, gets going now, but I'm afraid yet more time lost. So the car that got itself up in a second spot gets going. Still being shown Nico Verdonk as the driver, which he clearly can't be, but the car rotates and gets back into the race. Let's have another look as he tries to make the move on the inside. Brakes as late as he possibly can. Realises that the gap's going to close, loses the back. I was trying to get past Patrice Madeleine. I suggest it's Edward Mondron doing things like that. The car spins, it's going to be able to rejoin. So there's 72, it's the delayed Ferrari, hammering down towards the chicane. Duncan Tappy, currently in 21st place, having taken over from Gregoire de Moustier. Dan Brown there leads the way. The Gentleman Trophy doing it. Still Christian Kelvers ahead of Gilles Vanelay. And then third in the class is Jocke Mangs, taken over from Jan Brunstedt. Fourth in the class is now number 41, which has been taken over by Philippe Marie, having his first outing in the championship this year. Back on track then, 83 Porsche. That is with Eric Clement on the wheel of it, and it's not going to go as quickly in this stint. It's dropped down to 9th in class as a consequence of the late pit stop, and it's being monstered look by Ferraris at the end of the Mistral. The race leader there, Dan Brown, about to try to put a lap on it. Now, in terms of the overall situation, 51 leads number 1 Audi. In terms of classes, Dan Brown in 51 leads the 5th placed overall Mercedes. So he's got a bit of time in hand, and he's now put a lap on Eric Clement. So that means that Philippe Gache has got yet more work to do in that last stint in that car. An hour and 3/4 remains in what has been a very hectic race to date. In terms of the lead gap, Dan Brown last lap through was being caught slightly by Christopher Hasse by a couple of tenths of a second, and the advantage that the Ferrari has is about to be updated because he's about to come through at the end of the last sector. 3.4 seconds it was. Well, there's the second placed Audi. You can see for yourselves how the gap is coming down and down. Yes, there's traffic to worry about, and don't forget that Dan Brown's priority is to win the Pro-Am Cup, whereas it's a Pro Cup class car that's doing the chasing. The gap is down to 3 seconds as they go through. In other words, the Audi is hunting down the race-leading Ferrari, and all of this from the 8th row of the grid for car number 1. Qualified 15th, and now there it is in the mix. Amazing what a long-distance race can do. Dramas with safety cars, with clever strategy. And although the car hasn't looked that good during the course of qualifying, when it matters, when you get to the race, there it is up there. And with the demise of number 2, the hopes of the team ride on this. Audi at the Spa 24 Hours is going to be very, very strong indeed, because it's going to be Tom Christensen, it's going to be Andre Lotterer, it's going to be Benoit Trellier as well joining in the team, and it's looking very, very strong indeed for perhaps the second Spa 24 victory in a row. Well, Christopher Mies has got out of car number 1. He's in the pit lane. Let's hear from him. He's with Haley.
Christopher's trying to close the gap there on the Ferrari. How will he do it?
At the moment, it's running quite well. With our P15, I had a good start, but we are a little bit lost on straight, so it's not easy to compare to the Ferrari. But in the end, we are pushing, we try everything, and the race is still 1.5 hours, or more than 1.5 hours. So let's see what happens there.
Can the Audi really get an advantage on the Ferrari?
Sorry again.
Can the Audi really get an advantage on the Ferrari?
Yeah, it's not easy for us, but we are faster in the corner, especially the third part is more our part. But like I said, on the straight, and you know we have a lot of straights here, so yeah, we have to find or to close the gap, and then maybe in the slipstream we can overtake. But let's see what happens.
Thank you.
So there's optimism then from the Audi team. We'll see how that translates as the race unfolds then, because we've got, as you heard, an hour and 3/4 still to run. And there, number one, Christopher Haase puts a lap on the 83 Porsche. Christopher Mies, you've just been hearing from, one of the drivers that was involved in the race-stopping, race-abandoning accident on the Mistral Straight a few years ago in the GT3 European Championship. Phil Quaife was one of the other drivers, one of many to be fair. I think there were 9 cars involved in that, but it's good that Christopher Mies has come back to the circuit and he's going as quickly as ever. Dan Brown working his way through traffic. Now behind him is the 79 Ecurie Cos BMW that has just made a pit stop, so that car drops down the order. Still being shown as Ollie Milroy at the wheel, but it won't be. I think it is Joe Twyman for the no, Ollie Bryant, I think I was told, was doing the middle stint in that car. We'll try and clarify that, but it was a good job. If Haley gets a chance to saunter up to Ecurie Cos at the top end of the pit lane, Ollie Milroy's worth a word, because that was a very impressive effort from somebody new to GT racing this year. And there is car number one, Christopher Haase then, who last time pulled another 0.3 of a second back on the leading Ferrari. So Pro-Am car leads Pro Cup car at the moment, and in the sectors, sector 1, the Audi is the quicker of the two. Onto the Mistral goes the Svelte Ferrari 458. Now look back there, third is Marcus Paltela, and Jeffrey Van Hooydonk behind him, lapping quicker in the white and turquoise and yellow DHL Petronas back BMW. That car is another one creeping into the mix, and bear in mind that for the last stint it's going to have Jeroen Den Boer behind the wheel. We know that he is very quick, like Jeffrey Van Hooydonk, so it's another potential winning car maybe this. Behind in 5th place you've got Koen Wouters. Mike Hesselmans has dropped back all of a sudden down to 10th place. And another car that's crept up the order is number 20 with the experienced Patrice Gouillard at the wheel. So let me give you the top 10. You can see some of the classification at the bottom of the screen. But Dan Brown, 51 Ferrari, leads number 1, Christopher Haase. 3rd is Marcus Paltela in the BMW. 4th, you can see it at the back of the shot there, 36, Jeffrey Van Hooydonk. In 5th place, number 14, Mercedes, Koen Wouters. 6th is 42, Kevin Despanes in the Ferrari. Then 7th is 52, Louis Machiels, Ferrari. 8th is number 20, Patrice Gouillard, Ferrari. 9th is 34, Roland Berville, Porsche. 10th is number 4, Mike Hesselmans, BMW. And then 11th, yes, I haven't really latched onto this, but 11th is Godfrey Jones in the Pressy Spark Mercedes, going tremendously well. Again, an early pit stop, and that's brought the car into contention. 69, which was started by Stuart Hall, I think has now got Raoul Goethe at the wheel of it. That goes over the timing line, and the 79 Ecurie Cos BMW joining in as well, trying to find a way past the Gulf car as it goes through Verrières this time. Way out wide over the curb, bounces number 1, Christopher Haase, giving it everything. In fact, last time through, maybe because of traffic, he was a tad slower than Dan Brown. He's pushing as hard as he can, that's for sure. An hour and 40 minutes of this 3rd round of the Blancpain Endurance Series remain. It's been a very busy first part of the race, and a lot can yet shake out of this. There is the Jones brothers Mercedes, the car at the moment running in 11th place, but coming under pressure because you've got the number 10 Ferrari hunting it down. The car that was started by Gabriel Balthazar and has got now Mike Savary at the wheel of it, who is one of the quick drivers in that class. Not saying the Joneses are slow, but Mike Savary is hunting them down. You can see the gaps coming down and down and down. And the Jones brothers, the identical twins, who are in their late 50s, are very, very quick AMs, jolly people, and enjoy their racing. They've got 2 of these Mercedes, naturally. One for British GT, one for Blancpain. And they're great enthusiasts. They came out of rallying into Porsche racing years ago, then into GT, both British GT, and they had a spell in the FIA GT Championship. And Mike Jordan, who's looked after their cars for many, many years, is the 3rd driver. And remember how well the car went in the Spa 24 Hours last year. It led the Pro-Am class. It finished 2nd in the end. Number 70 has had a spin. The BMW of Niels Bauhaus. It rejoins. The car was 17th overall. Back into the race now. But Bauhaus has had that drama, and that potentially will have cost it some time. It's easier to tell you who hasn't had a moment, I think, in this race. Now, we've already talked about how well Ollie Milroy was going. Let's hear from him now. He's in the pits with Haley.
Ollie, an impressive start to the race, but there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, there is. Looking at it, Joe's doing pretty good times. Ollie, who's going to do the final stint, should be quite strong as well, because I think quite a lot of people, because the track's quite technical, I think quite a lot of people started their pros here. So I think we got very good AM pace, as well as, obviously, as you say, we had a good start against most of the other pros as well.
And how have you found being part of the series?
Yeah, it's absolutely awesome. You know, it's an amazing. It's so hard. I know that Ollie's come out to the British GT Championship for this weekend, and you know, it's unbelievably competitive. But there's no better place to be. You know, best part of 60 cars out there. Everyone's pretty close as well. So yeah, we're good.
Thank you.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, Ollie Bryant third for a Curiacos at Brands Hatch a week ago in British GT. There is the Curiacos BMW. Joe Twyman, it is then confirmed behind the wheel. And Joe, who's done lots of racing, most of his racing, to be fair, in historic racing cars. His dad has a delectable Alfa Romeo 8C that he wins with the Vintage Sports Car Club. Joe looks after Roger Will's fleet of historic cars and gets to drive them on occasions, and normally does great things with them. Regular race winner in some of Roger's fleet of cars. So now turning his attention to modern GT racing and going strongly, taking the car over from Ollie Milroy, and then the other Ollie Bryant, is going to do the last stint in that car. Great shot of the cars heading down towards Senior. You're looking at BMW, then Audi, Mercedes, Ferrari, more Porsche, Jaguar in the background as well. So proof of how many different brands there are represented in Blancpain this year as they turn their way on this, the 37th lap of the race. Dan Brown leads the way still, ahead of Christopher Haase, ahead of Marcus Palteler, who is being caught by Jeffrey Van Hooydonk, and there you can see 42. Now, Kevin Despanet is being held up a bit by number 98, Jocke Mangs, getting in the way ever so slightly. Number 3 also, Marcus Palteler, has found himself tucked up behind the Gulf Racing McLaren. Now, in the middle stint of the race, they're not going to be as quick as they were, because you've got Mike Wainwright and Raoul Goethe behind the wheel of the two cars, and they're not as quick as the pro drivers that did the opening stint. 69 is the car of Raoul Goethe, who has this amazing collection of Gulf liveried racing cars. If you're going to collect cars, you may as well collect Gulf liveried ones, and that's what he has set out to do. And he's got a few gaps, but not many, that's for sure. And he, among his many business interests, has a property company called Delaney, again linked to the Gulf Porsche 917s of the Le Mans movie. Stephen McQueen's character named Michael Delaney. And as the cars turn their way out of Verrières, you're looking at the Jeffrey Van Hooydonk BMW trying to put a lap on Joe Twyman. Of course, the car losing a lap after the pit stop when he was put into the car. Marcus Palteler still pushing on as he comes down towards the chicane. Interesting to see the way that last year's car, the Curiacos BMW, that is an X-Mark VDS Racing chassis, is right up behind it. And Raoul Goethe not exactly getting out of the way here to let the quicker car through. Remember that there, number 3 is in third place, whereas number 69 McLaren is a long way down now. So really, Raoul Goethe ought to be getting out of the way. We also, while we were hearing from Ollie Milroy in the pits, got a shot of number 7 stopping out on the circuit, Stefano Crotti, in the ARC Bratislava Porsche. That another car expiring by the side of the road. And now look at this, the BMW's in a straight line, cannot do anything at all about the McLaren. You've got 3 of them running together. Joe Twyman up with the third place battle, even though he's a lap down, but he wants to be part of this. Jeffrey Van Hooydonk comes up to the inside of him. Marcus Palteler trying to defend, he's trying to lap, he's trying to do everything as he goes towards Senior this time. But Jeffrey Van Hooydonk, fourth place, gets himself past Joe Twyman. Raoul Goethe runs out wide, and finally Palteler nips past him. Also Van Hooydonk goes through, Joe Twyman gets past as well, and 34 Porsche has just come into the pit lane. That was the car that Anthony Beltoise ran second with early on, and number 34 has come through the pit lane. Dramas potentially. Meantime, Formula BMW rages on track. Third and fourth, Palteler versus Van Hooydonk. Great scrap this between the two Z4s run by different teams. Mark VDS ahead of DB Motorsport. 42, Kevin Despanes in 6th place. Emmett O'Brien to do the last stint in that car. Behind them you've got Louis Macchiels, Andrea Bertolini to take over 52. That's going to be one to watch. Patrice Gouillard is at the wheel of number 20, and he's next up, having taken over from Ludovic Badet. But that goes to Jean-Luc Beaubelic for the last stint. And Jean-Luc, as we know, he's not as quick as his 2 co-drivers, so number 20 may fade a bit in the last stint. Other teams, of course, have put their pro driver in first, and they'll be on the same kind of strategy, hoping that the time in the last stint is not lost by the slower driver. But again, it proves that there's more shuffling to come out of this. And Mike Stursberg in number 8 in 15th place, still one to watch. Now, Bas Linder's car runs third. Bas busy, but he's taken time to talk to Haley.
It looks like Marcus is suffering because of the traffic out there on track. How will he be able to get the pace and get ahead of it?
Well, it's very difficult with the traffic because we are so slow in the straight. So even if we lap a car, if it's a Porsche, a Ferrari, a McLaren, or even an Audi, we struggle very much. Even in the slipstream, we cannot follow them. So it's a tough battle. But we just have to keep ground like we do now, and then it should be okay. We know this is going to be a difficult weekend for us. So if we can score good points or be on the podium, that would be perfect.
You're going to be happy with your current position considering you weren't on the pace this weekend?
Yeah, we are not on the pace. We were like 2 seconds off almost all weekend. Qualifying still more than 1 second off. And even in the race, I mean, we've seen some blistering times, 57, 58, and the fastest we've done is 2 minutes and a little bit. So almost 2 seconds off the fastest time. But we are very consistent, so I think we made a very good call with the safety car. Again, the team did a perfect pit stop. I'm sure we gained again 10 seconds on most of them, so keep on pushing.
Thank you.
Now, another change we've just had is that Koen Wouters has got himself up past Jeffrey Van Hooydonk. So the Mercedes, illustrating the pace it had in the first stint with Dennis Rettra and the pace of yesterday. But I'm still a bit concerned about number 14 for the last stint, because when you put Rafael Ventura into that car, he again is not as quick as his co-drivers there. Kevin Despanes gets past Van Hooydonk as well. Now, what's going on for 36? All of a sudden, it's losing places. Kevin Despanes runs wide over the curb at Virage du Pont, bounces his way back onto the road, but he's still able to stay ahead of the BMW as they power past the pits. The Ferrari goes 5th, and Jeffrey Van Hooydonk, who a lap or so ago was catching Paltela in that last lap, has dropped way back, relatively speaking, into 6th place. Louis Machiels is now hunting him down as well. So still things are changing and changing again as Kevin Despanes, who's graduated from the French Clio Cup into GT racing, hops wide over the curb. Another car lower down to keep an eye to is Mike Hazemans, who is 9th. Now remember number 71, Davide Rigon, that was leading early on. Not mentioned the car for a while. It has just got back into the top 10 with Daniel Zampieri, the pole position getter, at the wheel of it. And he is hunting down Mike Hazemans at 0.6 of a second a lap, so the gap is coming down as you see the 58 Porsche go wide. That was the car that was started by Christian Kelders and was then handed over to Daniel Debruyere. That car is one of last year's Porsches, so it was entered initially as a Pro-Am car, but actually gets into the Gentleman Trophy for the purposes of the weekend. Right, Marcus Paltela down the Mistral, but now Koen Wouters in the Mercedes is becoming the man to watch for the next few minutes at any rate, because he's hunting down the BMW. Kevin Despanes is behind him, then Jeffrey Van Hooydonk falling back. Where is 52? There, the black Ferrari with the Italian tricolour on the front of it in the hands of Louis Machiels, 7th. Bear in mind, Andrea Bertolini is to take that car over. That's another one that you shouldn't discount in the Pro-Am Cup. The Curiacos BMW continues to go strongly. Joe Twyman at the wheel. He's fallen away in last year's car from the 2012 spec BMWs. But continues to push on, as also there is 50 Ferrari. Now, Jack Gerber started that car. Marco Ciocci having taken it over, trying to bring it into contention in Pro-Am Cup at the moment. Dan Brown, who still leads the race outright, leads the class from Koen Wouters, from Kevin Despanes. Then 4th is Louis Machiels' Ferrari. 5th is the number 20 Ferrari of Patrice Gouillard. And 6th is number 10 Ferrari, which for the moment has got Mike Savary at the wheel of it. Then it's the Godfrey Jones-driven Mercedes. Behind is Mike Sturzberg's Porsche. 57 Ferrari is next, and that is currently being driven by Alessandro Bonaccini. So that's the way that the Pro-Am Cup looks at the moment, and things will still change right the way through to the end. There is Louis Machiels. Remember, it was Louis Machiels at the Spa 24 Hours last year that had the radio go down on him, so he didn't respond to the drive-through penalty boards, which were virtually thrown at him in the end, and as a consequence of that, the car was black flagged and not allowed to rejoin. 36 BMW in 6th. It's just lost a couple of places. Let's find out why from Stéphane Lemeray.
Stefan, what's the reason for Jeffrey losing some pace?
No, the problem is that we are very slow in the straight. So the Mercedes overtook us, and then the Mercedes is blocking us in the fast corners where we are normally fast. But when you have a car in front, you cannot go fast. So after that, the Ferrari overtook us outside the track, going outside the track. So this was not very fair from the Ferrari. And then we lost two positions. But it's just a question of speed in the straight. So the car is okay, the driver is okay, but when you have somebody in the straight, you have to let him go, and then you are blocked and we lose positions.
Thank you.
interesting to hear a few minutes ago, wasn't it? Bas Linders talking about how they're not on the pace and how they're slow in a straight line, and yet, as Haley made the point, third is where the Mark VDS racing car is, so it's not doing badly for a car that's not on the pace, is it? And that's with the balance of performance, having changed the car by an extra 30 kilos of weight, and the ride height going up by 10 millimetres for the course of the weekend. So there's Geoffrey Van Hooydonk then, good through the corners, that car, struggling in a straight line as you've heard, and working his way now up towards the end of the lap, having just once again negotiated the number 31 Lamborghini for Romain Brandella at the wheel. Even though it's been badly delayed, the car is running in 43rd place out of 54 starters, so working its way back up the order by dint of other people having problems. The Pro Cup, the Jaguar currently running in 10th place. Good that that car is still circulating. Every lap is more development for it. Now there is Marcus Paltela. That last lap was a 2 minutes 1.5. And Koen Wouters, 2 minutes 1.2 means he is getting closer. There is the number 50 Ferrari. Again, one of the fleet of cars run from AF Corsa, and Marco Ciocci is now at the wheel of it. And Ciocci has always been a very quick single-seater driver before he came into GT racing, so the car, having lost ground early on because of Jack Gerber's pace relative to Ciocci and relative to others, plus a few spins that we saw Jack Gerber having, means that Marco Ciocci has got a lot of work to do. That's car number 30, Peter Belshaw at the wheel. Now, quite what Craig Wilkins did wrong early on, never got to the bottom of. He was summoned, remember, to the race director along with the team manager. For why, answer Ken none from the information line on the screen. There is 72, working its way through. Matthias Besch fighting his way back up the order, remember, after the car was delayed early on. And 34, Roland Berville, 22nd, the car having run in second place with Anthony Beltoise in the first stint. So shows you how different drivers have a completely different effect on a car. One car that's there early on you almost forget about in the next driver's stint, and still keeping the pressure on is 71 Daniel Zampieri, who at the moment is the quickest man on the circuit as far as the leading 10 is concerned. The other driver that's doing laps similar to him in the 2-minute mark is 57 Ferrari, and that means that it's at the moment Alessandro Bonaccini. But Daniel Zampieri is certainly getting himself back into the mix here. He is 45 seconds away from the race leader, but that gap will come down if he continues to lap at that impressive pace. 72 Matthias Besch goes by. How's United Autosports getting on? He's caught a glimpse of 22 McLaren, 21st that is, and I think I'm right in saying it's David Brabham that's taken over from Matt Bell. The surviving car, of course, after 23 had a big accident, Mark Blundell hitting Jerome Domain mid-spin. It was Alvaro Parent who was the fastest of the three drivers at 22 in the qualifying session this morning. There's number 1, currently being driven by Christopher Haase. Stefan Ortelli was the quickest. Now, how much you want to read into that is, of course, bearing in mind he did the last stint in qualifying. He did Q3 when the cars were at their lightest because they burnt off a lot of fuel. But even so, we know that the two Christophers are quick. We've seen what Christopher Mies has done. Christopher Haase dropping away just a little bit last lap through. And there, clambering out of a car. Who's that we've lost? And where is that we've lost it? Marshall's run to the driver's aid. Peering at crash helmets here. So car 20 it is that stopped. That means it is Patrice Gouillard, and he has stopped between turns 7 and turn 10. So from L'École down to Senior, in other words, approaching the Mistral. So that was a car that was well placed, remember, up in the leading 8, and it's now parked by the side of the road. So yet another front-running car in yet more difficulty, and Patrice Gouillard is going no further. It's one of the two Sofrev Autosport Promotion Ferraris out of the race. It will promote Mike Savary in the sister car to 12th place. And Dan Brown in 51 continues to lead the way. Great effort this as you look at the chasing Audi. Dan Brown, who came from karting into the Sax Max Junior Saloon Car Championship, had a spell in T-cars in Formula Palmer Audi, raced in British GT, but drove in the FIA GT3 European Championship last year with great success. I don't know what they're missing on track, a couple, I tell you. No stamina, some people. There's an hour and 24 minutes to go and they're distracted already. Dan Brown leads the way. He's in traffic as well. There he is, going through Verrières, hunting down the 34 Porsche ahead, Roland Berville, who will hand the car to Henry Hassett, who was quick in the bronze test session yesterday morning. Number 30 Audi, Peter Belshaw, will give way eventually to Aaron Scott. The car's in 35th place, there it is. one of last year's Team WRT Belgian Audi Club Audis, and Dan Brown being held up a bit here by Roland Berville. Now Roland is not an inexperienced driver, and he gets out of the way coming out of the chicane, rumbles up over the curb, lets Dan Brown go through. But this, again, proving that the early pit stops were worth doing, and again, it kind of shows which the clever teams are, because Castle Racing left their drivers out for a long time. AF Corsa brought them in early. AF Corsa leap ahead into the lead of the race. The 51 and 52 cars, both in the Pro-Am Cup, and are now 1st and 7th outright. There's Christopher Hasse then at the wheel, and in the first sector he is quicker because Dan Brown was being held up in traffic by Roland Berville. Jaguar has just come back down the pit road as well, after it's that 3rd pit stop of the race now for that car. Now there is Daniel Zampieri up into 9th with the demise of Patrice Gouillard. What further progress can be made within his stint? Stefano Gattuso will take the car over for the 3rd stint. I think it's fair to say he's not as quick as the other two. He's not slow, but he's not as fast as the others. So again, what he's gained now may well be lost come that final stint. It's Freddie Barth at the wheel of the Jaguar, incidentally, that's just come back into the pit lane, and the development exercise for Emile Frey's team continues. They get that car back into the race. 58 Porsche goes by, heading the Gentleman Trophy still. And the car looking pretty strong at the moment, now that Christian Kelders has handed over to Daniel Debrouwer. The car going strongly. But can the Viper fight back? That was the leading car early on. Now the lead gap is down to 2.7 seconds, and 3rd is Marcus Paltela, with Koen Wouters starting to bring down the gap 3rd to 4th. So down towards the chicane they will go in a moment. This is the fight for 3rd. Sofrev then, as we know, has lost one car. The surviving car is in 10th place, Mike Savary at the wheel of number 10. But let's try and get some news, if we can, about the demise of the Patrice Gouillard car. Hayley, what have you found out?
It was a broken steering hack on the Sofrev Ferrari 458.
Right, OK. Well, broken steering means you ain't going to go very far, does it? Because there are quite a few corners around here. So I wonder whether that was caused by it just braking, or whether Patrice Gouillard whacked a curb or did something to actually break it rather than it failing on its own. That's interesting to find out. But either way, thanks for that, Hayley. Car 20 then. We lose from the race. It's going to take the race officials quite a lot of time at the end of this to clear everything out of the way around the circuit, because there's an awful lot of cars that are stranded out trackside after problems. And there might be a few more yet, with an hour and 20 minutes to go. As you look at car 1, Christopher Hasse doing a very, very good job last lap through, bringing the gap down and down and down. But once again, the pesky Porsche 34 not being hugely cooperative. It gets out of the way now, and in some cases you'll find that the slower drivers, when they're being lapped, are told to hold their line, and it's up to the quick cars to find a way through. So Roland Berville trying to drive his own race. That car, having had 2 pit stops now, has fallen way out of contention. It is in 21st place and goes up through Village and towards Tours and Virage Dupont at the end of the lap. Car 1, Christopher Hasse pressing on. And in 3rd place, Marcus Paltela, 2nd in class, which again is significant because it's points for the class that you get. 4th is where you find Koen Wouters' Mercedes. Jeffrey Van Hooydonk is back up to 5th at the expense of Kevin Despanes. 7th is Louis Machiels, 8th is Mike Hezemans, 9th is Zampieri, and 10th, another car that's worth keeping an eye to, Xavier Marson in the Porsche. Remember, it was damaged early on that first lap when Mark Henrici got involved in the traffic at the first couple of corners. The car ran well up into 2nd place in that first stint, but they pitted just as we went back to green, so they lost a lot of time. And Xavier Marson now bringing the car back into contention. I still think that there's a lot to change in the 3rd hour of the race. Number 1 Audi riding the curb, going through the chicane. Christopher Hasse at the wheel of the car. Last lap was slightly slower, in fact, because he fell foul of the traffic. And we're now getting a report also of another car that's stopped by the side of the circuit, which I think is Jeffrey Van Hooydonk. Yes, it is. The number 36 BMW has stopped out on track as well. So having just been talking about the car getting back ahead of Kevin Despanes' Ferrari, now Jeffrey Van Hooydonk has stopped again on the Mistral. There's Stefano Crossi's Porsche that's been there for a while, but there's 36 BMW as well stranded out on the circuit. You heard from Stéphane Lemeray. There he goes, off to find out what's happened now, the DB Motorsport driver. experienced Belgian journalist as well as very quick driver. And there also in the background is 82 Viper that's come in. It's a bit early, I would have thought, for its second pit stop, but hopefully they can get the car back into the race and not lose too much time in the Gentleman Trophy. What that does give is now the Audi that won at Silverstone of Jochem Mangs, second in class. There it is. That's the BMW. Found it out on track. And head bow, Jeffrey Van Hooydonk sits by the side of the road. The marshal says, don't sit there, come with me. And is that a punctured tyre that's caused the car to stop? I think it is. So if the tyre has gone down and it's just too far to bring it back, the car going no further. And 49 has had a spin as well. The Ferrari that was started by Jean-Marc Bachalier, former Ferrari champion, trying to rejoin. I think Howard Blanc took the car over, the American driver. He gets back into the race. That's had its dramas coming towards Village, towards the end of the lap. There is Jeffrey Van Hooydonk's BMW then. Going no further. Another quick car, another front-running car out of the race. Well, Stefan Lemray knows exactly why that car is going no further. He's with Haley.
Stefan, what happened?
It seems that Jeffrey had a contact with Ferrari. He was overlapping a Ferrari who was one lap behind us. It seems that the driver of the Ferrari didn't see Jeff, and so the race is over, and we had chances certainly for the podium overall and maybe for the win, so it's really a shame.
Thank you.
It is a shame, but I tell you, the order we're going to have at the end of this race is going to be nothing like what you'd have anticipated. Marco Ciocci has just brought the quick Ferrari number 50 back down the pit lane. That car having been 18th in its class. There's something a bit smoky there. Is that one of the Ferraris running in that leading group? So we've got confirmation also. The orange McLaren just going through the screen there, through the shot. Jack Clark took the car over. I was suggesting it might have been Edward Mondron after his spins. Apologies. It was Jack Clark shown on the timing screen now, the transponder having updated that had that rotation. And the car 18th, remember it was another one that pitted late when we went back to a green flag. And now Jack Clark, very quick Formula 2 racer in Formula Palmer Audi before that, trying to work his way back into contention. The next target is number 70, the Niels Bauhaus BMW, that will be taken over for the final stint by Nick Katzberg. That'll be one to watch. Dan Brown leads the way still, looking very, very strong indeed. 72 Ferrari there, Matthias Besch at the wheel, still trying to play catch-up after the multitudinous spins that befell Gino Forgione early on in the race. In traffic then now, you can see the leading car ahead. Jaguar, McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes. He's got to work his way past all of those. The next target, in fact, is going to be the number 18 Mercedes that has got Steve Jans at the wheel of it. And that's a car that's quite a long way down the order, 37th, in fact, as they come over the timing line. Jack Clark goes through, running in 17th spot. In fact, he's got himself past the BMW now of Niels Bauhaus. It's dropped a long way back on that lap. There it goes. Behind number 1, Christopher Hasse, who again is not matching the pace of the Ferrari. Now, in terms of balance of performance, the Ferrari's made 25 kilos heavier. Audi Ultra, which is what that is, the R8 LMS Ultra, 50 kilos heavier. But also the Ferrari, the ride height changed by 6 millimetres. It's higher, and that therefore means that you've got to work on the aero once again to get the best out of the car. And AF Corsa seem to have done a very good job of that. Meantime there, you've got Koen Wouters, then the lap for McLaren, and Marcus Palteler behind the Mercedes. In other words, you've had the change for third, so Palteler falls back to 4th overall, but stays second in class. Dives up the inside. Is that the Mike Wainwright McLaren he's finding a way past? It is. Marcus Palteler runs deep into the corner. Mike Wainwright currently 20th after the heroics from Rob Bell early on. And remember that car's had a pair of new turbos put on it after the dramas it had in qualifying at the start of the day. So the team has worked very, very hard on that. Gulf Racing UK is the team name. Dave Price and his squad operate the cars, and hopefully they will be well rewarded with a good result out of this. The Viper that we saw at the pit lane has rejoined. Gilles Vanelay still at the wheel of it, but of course time lost. And there you can see the BMW having lapped the McLaren, really struggling in a straight line, almost having to defend from a lapped car to hang on to the place. Marcus Palteler in a straight line with the BM, lacking grunt, as we've been hearing from Bas Leinders. Third in that class, by the way, behind the BMW, is Daniel Zampieri, who is now 7th, and he's catching Louis Machiels for 6th overall at 2.5 seconds a lap, traffic permitting. So he's getting himself into the mix once again, but then it all will hinge on Stefano Gattuso for the last stint. And how is 75 getting on? The Porsche of Xavier Marson is now 9th, with Mark Goossens, the quick Mark Goossens, to take that car over in the last stint. So that's another one that should gain places. And the Jones brothers in the Mercedes are back into the top 10. going exceptionally well. The Mercedes, again, liking the circuit, and after the problems of yesterday with the wiring loom dramas, they were a bit long-faced. Well, they'll be smiling now because the car's going strongly, and it'll be fascinating to see how Mike Jordan gets on in that car when he takes over for the final hour. Daniel Zampieri still charging, still catching Louis Machiels. And the gap's coming down and down between them. In the background of there, you can see the United Autosports McLaren, David Brabham at the wheel. He too is trying to get the car into contention once again. It's lost a bit of ground. It's down in 30th spot. Through goes 71. Daniel Zampieri, another second and a half pull back that time against Louis Machiels. But effectively, we've got 14 minutes of this element of the race to go, because that's when you're going to get to the next hour mark. That's when you can expect the next raft of pit stops, and yet more shuffling of drivers, and therefore different pace of cars as things pan out yet further. Zampieri being held up a little bit in traffic there, getting caught up behind 43. Finds a way past Patrice Madeleine on the inside, and now tries to line up the McLaren, which will be the next target. And Pro Cup, then, this car running third in class. He turns through Lecole, bouncing over the curb and accelerating down the long Mistral straight towards Signy once again. 280 kilometres plus in the Ferrari, and catching the McLaren. Let's hear from Dennis Retterer, because he has been going strongly in the number 14 Mercedes. The car is third, Koen Wouters at the wheel. Dennis is in the pits with Haley.
Dennis, Mercedes has been performing extremely well here at Paul Ricard. You're currently third fastest. Can you do any better than that?
No, I think it's going really well. I think in pre-qualifying we already showed our potential. I think in the race we did quite well. All race with P3 and P2 and Pro-Am, which was good. It was a shame about the safety car, which cost us a little bit of time because we had a nice gap. But now again, Koen is doing really good, so, and really consistent. So it looks really good for us.
Thank you.
It does look good for them. Third overall, there is the Mercedes. Koen Wouters at the wheel. Koen, who has done lots and lots of racing back home in things like Belcar, as well as FIA GT Championships. He's also done the Dakar Rally a few times, but fronts the Belgian band Clouseau, and isn't just a musician these days, TV presenter as well. Very much a star back home, but when he can divorce himself from his showbiz life and go racing, he's a very quick driver, and you can see the way that he's worked his way up past Marcus Paltela. Remember, Marcus Paltela very much a pro driver. Yes, I know that the BMW is not that quick in a straight line compared to the Mercedes, but even so, Koen Wouters doing a very impressive job, and he runs second in class behind Dan Brown, and he is at the moment lapping faster than the race leader. So in real terms, the gap's coming down between the top two in class. Turns his way through Lecole onto the Mistral straight now, Koen Wouters. So Dan Brown continues to do this excellent job at AF Corsa, leading the race. And although this looks like it's a Ferrari circuit, he has not put a wheel wrong. He's managed to fend off the challenge of others. And he's still there ahead of Christopher Hassett, who on some laps when the traffic allows brings down the gap, but it's 3.4 seconds now. And behind him is Koen Wouters. Now, Koen Wouters is 18 seconds adrift of the second place car, but he's lapping quicker, ever so slightly. He's catching. So it's another one to keep an eye on this as the hour pans out. 11 more minutes there or thereabouts before the next round of pit stops can be expected, if they can time this to get to the hour mark. Now, of course, this has been for some of them a stint with safety car and then green flag conditions. For others, they pitted during green flag, so they've only had green flag running. How's that going to affect the fuel strategy on the cars? Number 3, Marcus Paltela, an early pitter, remember. That's lined us to give way to the Finn. So much for the rain. Marcus Paltela was anticipated to be doing a wet stint, but even though it's still quite overcast here, it's still very humid, but it is dry, and the little bit of rain that we had before the race started has touched something. That wouldn't come to nothing. Is it going to strike and be the sting in the tail for the last hour of the race? The forecast yesterday was saying a 58% chance of rain. Lots of teams banking their hopes on the wet weather. Ain't happening yet. Through goes Koen Wouters. Through goes Marcus Paltela behind him. And on that lap, Paltela even quicker than the Mercedes. So as the fuel load comes down on the BMW, he starts to match the Mercedes in terms of pace. We're on lap 51 at the moment. Now, we also earlier on saw Alex Buncombe have a drama in the Nissan. Let's catch up with him. Hayley?
Alex, it's a sad sight to see the Nissan parked up in the garage. What was the extent of the damage?
Well, unfortunately, on the second lap, went to the outside of one of the hairpins, and unfortunately a Mercedes caught the inside of me and spun me round, which you know, when you start down in P40, that's unfortunately what happens in this sort of series. So, yeah, that put us last, and then I sort of, you know, got my head down, pushed as hard as I could, past many cars, and then we extremely luckily got the safety car. So all bottlenecked up, and yeah, we followed it for sort of 4 or 5 laps or more, and then went green, and yeah, got my head down again, and then unfortunately had a coming together with the white Lamborghini at turn 4. Yeah, it's you know, unfortunate. We were you know, we were about 2 to 3 seconds a lap faster, and yeah, it was just, you know, it was just one of those things really. He went to the inside, and yeah, it was going a little slower than I anticipated, and just sort of ran into the back of him, and yeah, it's done a bit too much damage to our car to continue. So yeah, it's a shame for them because they're also out of the race. So yeah, it was just one of those things, unfortunately. But yeah, you know, on to Spa now, and we'll look forward to that one.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
So another one bites the dust, the Nissan, which was the winning car in British GT at Brands Hatch a week ago by 22 thousandths of a second after 2 hours of racing. Most amazing effort by Alex, who did the first stint there, and Jan Mardenborough, who would have driven in that last stint. He brought the car home to victory at Brands Hatch, but it's a great shame that we don't get to see Jan Mardenborough here. Chris Ward, the other driver of the car, again denied an opportunity. In fact, he was a race winner as well last weekend, but in the 1970s 4-kilometre Prix at Silverstone, so they were all winners at different circuits. Now, we've got on track here, you can see the McLaren of Duncan Tappy, and behind him is number 71 Daniel Zampieri. We had a few more pit stops as well. 52 has just pitted, Louis Macchios to give way to Andrea Bertolini. Also number 19 Oliver Morley in, and 34 Roland Berville to give way to Henry Hassid. Number 10 is now Jerome Policond. So it's all looking interesting, this, for the last hour of the race. Now, where is number 12 McLaren out of all of this? 19th is Duncan Tappy. Daniel Zampieri puts the lap on him, but he needs to. And Zampieri's next target is going to be Marcus Paltela, but I don't think he's going to get there in time before the stops. Aaron Scott there, about to take over the number 30 Audi from Peter Belshaw. Usual plan, put the 2 AM drivers in first, and then you put the pro, Aaron Scott, in for the last stint. So 51 Dan Brown leads from number 1 Christopher Hauser, from 14 Koen Wouters, and there is 42. That is Kevin Despanes, who was running early on in the top 6. He has been off the road, he has got a puncture, and he is falling way down the order, and that's going to ruin that car's race. It's going to be given to Emmett O'Brien for the last stint, but that is another one, to all intents and purposes, that's out of the race. I'm telling you a lie, Emmett O'Brien is in it now, so fresh into his stint, in fact. He's picked up the puncture. Kevin Despanes has pitted and given way, and now Emmett O'Brien has got a punctured tyre, and he's bringing it back. He's limping it home, but that's going to cost the car a huge amount of time. Mike Stursberg's Haribo Porsche goes through, flashing its lights, and the danger is here that Emmett O'Brien comes back so fast that he does more damage to the transmission of the car, and then it's going to be out of the race. 41 is in the pit lane, driver change for the Audi. That's not doing that car any good, is it? It's dragging on the ground, and it limps along the Mistral. Defined limp in this context. It still looks pretty quick, that, to me. It's making a horrible noise as everything drags along the ground, but Emmett O'Brien tumbling down the order. Currently in 14th, but he's going to lose more ground, of course, by the time he's got back into the pit lane. Dan Brown, the race leader, has pitted now. Number 51 comes into the pit road. Koen Wouters, therefore, should inherit the lead by staying out. And also now, Marcus Paltela in relatively early to give way to Maxime Martin. Right, the weapon is unleashed then at Marc VDS Racing. Maxime Martin gets into car 3 with 65 minutes of the race to go. It's going to win again, potentially, that, isn't it? Because the speed that he has got relative to number 14, which will go the way now of the gentleman racer Rafael Vantor, is not necessarily what the BMW can catch, it's whether anything can catch it. And now the fascination begins. Maxime Martin then, thanks to some clever strategy, a safety car and 2 good stints from his co-drivers, is now in the box seat for a 3rd win for a car that Jorn is not on the pace. Jorn, balance of performance has affected it, Jorn, and it could yet be a victor by the end of the race. There it is. The car drops down, it blasts away, and we've also had number 1 in for Stefan Ortelli. I think Ortelli has stayed ahead on the pit stops. Let's check as the car goes down the pit lane. 31 back into the race. There you can see Vita 4-1 Team Italy Ferraris rejoining, and the battered Mercedes So I'll give you an update of the order at the end of the next lap. It's all shuffled itself back into position. Stefano Ortelli then on track, pushing hard. That's another car that could yet win this race, having served its pit stop. Christopher Hasse giving way. Leads to Hasse to Ortelli. And Dan Brown, the car still shown as being in the pit lane. Koen Wouters now comes in as well to give way in the Mercedes to Rafael Vantour. 51 goes down the pit road. Now it's going to go to Giuseppe Giro, isn't it, who is not a slow driver. And 52, Andrea Bertolini at the wheel after the good efforts of Louis Macchiels. I still think 52 is going to have a word or two to say about the outcome of this race. Right, there's Giuseppe Giro then, on track. Former Carter, former Italian Clio racer, Clio Euro Cup racer. He had a spell in the World Touring Car Championship for Pro Team. He's raced in the Ferrari Challenge. He's raced in the Euro Cup McGowan Trophy. He's racing a GT3 Aston Martin. He's not short of mileage. And Mike Hesemans has pitted. Xavier Marson has pitted. Right, the last hour of the race, last hour and 3 minutes effectively, is about to kick off, because you've got lots of people in the pits, lots of shuffling of drivers. Some are quicker than their predecessor, some aren't as quick as the man they're replacing. So now we are going to have the fight to the finish. And Stefan Ortelli in number 1 Audi, the surviving car from Belgian Audi Club Team WRT, trying to score the first victory of the season for Audi. If you listen to the cynics in the paddock, you'll say that this is the one race that nobody really wants to win, because if they do well here and the balance of performance affects them for the next round, it's going to hurt your chance of winning the Spa 24 Hours, which is what lots of teams want to win, particularly given that the Spa 24 Hours is, of course, a Belgian race, the Belgian Audi Club, or indeed the Belgian Mark VDS racing team. However, if you don't believe the cynics, then this is a race everybody wants to win and hang the balance of performance and its consequences. Over the line comes number 1. Stefan Ortelli then goes through 6th. And he's going to gain 2 more places because of other cars in the pit lane, such as Xavier Marson and Mike Sturzberg, giving way to Christian Menzel. Daniel Zampieri staying out later. He is up to 2nd place now. So we've now got number 14 having taken the lead, but then making its pit stop, Rafael Vantour at the wheel. And Daniel Zampieri should take over the lead at the end of the next lap because he is staying out longer than others. Stefan Ortelli is ahead of Maxime Martin, to be fair. So Maxime Martin is going to have to try and catch the Audi, but then we need to see who is behind him and in what order. Mark Goossens is going to be one to watch now that he's taken over 75 Porsche. Over the timing line comes 71. That's the leading car once again, Daniel Zampieri. Because of others ahead of him serving their 2nd mandatory pit stop, he takes up the running. So Ferrari back in front. And Daniel Zampieri in the car that Davide Rigon led with at the start of the race runs wide over the curb. And Stefano Gattuso, who is the slowest of the 3, he's not hugely slow, but he's not as quick, if you like, as Rigon or Zampieri, will do the 3rd stint, and what they're trying to do is make that a little bit shorter. Eric Clement about to bail out of the 83 to give way to Philippe Gache. He's partly responsible not just for driving, but also running that car through SMG Challenge, the 1985 French Formula Ford 1600 champion, then about to get behind the wheel. Hugely experienced driver, Philippe Gache, after 10 years of racing at Le Mans, although they only ever finished it once back in 1996, but hugely experienced driver. Right, number 14 now with Rafael Vantour at the wheel, dropping down the order. Zampieri leads the way, and up into 2nd spot now, 57 Ferrari, which has got Alessandro Bonaccini at the wheel. We've yet to have Eugenio Ambos in that car, so that will drop back a little bit on the next round of pit stops. And number 14 Mercedes, I think, is going to fall away here, because we know that Rafael Vantour is a proper gentleman racer, and although he runs in the Pro-Am class, he's not as quick as a few of those around him. So Zampieri leads the way, and the team manager of car 41 is now being summoned to the race director. That's Santilot Racing's Robert Hissam, Pierre Hershey, Philippe Marie Gentleman Trophy Audi. And a big drama for the Viper. Out of the race, very definitely, is that car. Gilles Vannelet gets out of it and walks away, and yet another conflagration for the marshals to have to sort out. We've seen Porsches go up in flames, and now the Viper well and truly out of the race, and in spectacular fashion. So the fire car is on its way to attend to this. We've got Jack Clark bringing in the McLaren in the meantime to give way to Edouard Mondron, and that is a big fire for the Viper, isn't it? Well and truly ablaze. And the team, the track team, there now to try and put out the blaze, but that car has been burning for quite some time now. And although there's lots of runoff at Paul Ricard, one of the downsides is that it's quite a long slog sometimes for people to get from their point of deployment to the car itself. And you can see the damage that's been done to the Viper while it's been burning. So a heavy fire at rear is how that is described by the race director. And out of the Gentleman Trophy then goes the Viper that has been very, very quick, but on occasions unreliable this year, and this is a very graphic illustration of unreliability. So that is at Signes, and it's out of the race, that car, very definitely. Zampieri has just pitted, and that's going to now put 57 Bonaccini into the lead of the race, but that's yet to make a pit stop, so you're going to get Stefano Telli into the lead of the race, and the one that's chasing after him will be Maxime Martin, who at the moment is not lapping as quickly as the Audi. So the Audi has kept track position, pitted slightly earlier than the BMW, that's what tricked me for a moment, and so if Stefano Telli can carry on doing these lap times, that's going to be the car to beat. Into the pit lane comes 60, which was Matt Draper, who'd taken over from Stephen Jelly, and it should now be Julian Draper at the wheel. So car 1 on the pit stops should now take up the lead. It does. Stefano Telli at the lead of the wheel of the leading car, where in relation to this is Maxime Martin. He goes through now, and his next lap is only a tenth slower than Stefano Telli, so he's not exactly slow, is he? We know that Maxime Martin is very, very fast. After Silverstone, I asked Pierre Giordone why the Audi's dropped away in the last hour, and he said, well, 2 reasons. One was the lack of grip in the greasy conditions, and the other was Maxime Martin in the BMW, and he's just so fast, and they're riding the curve. This is an hour of qualifying for Maxime Martin now. He pushes as hard as he can to get the car as close as it can get to the number 1 Audi. The fastest lap of the race still held from earlier on from Mirko Venturi before the gearbox played up. So we'll see if anybody can challenge that in terms of the fastest lap speed and fastest lap time. But at the moment it's still Mirko Venturi. Right, the Viper out of the race from the Gentleman Trophy. Big disappointment from that team. And of course the demise of that car, it leaves the way open once again for the battle in the class between Porsche, Christian Kelders and Jochen Mangs in the Audi. But Haley in the pits, I think, has got news about the Viper. Haley, what can you tell us?
Yes, sadly, Adders, it's another exhaust fire. They suspect it's the exhaust that's caused the fire and caused for the Viper to now be out.
Oh dear, oh dear. Thanks for that, Haley. Right, an exhausted Viper then out of the race. So the big fire puts it out of contention completely. And the Gentleman Trophy at Silverstone, remember, was decided on the very last lap of the race. I think it could well go down to the wire again here, because that is still a very, very fierce battle. Now this is 71, back into the race after its pit stop. Stefano Gattuso trying to find a way past the 14 Mercedes of Rafael Vantour. Up front, 57 Bonaccini leading the way, but yet to stop, and 71 Gattuso looking for a way round the Mercedes. Up towards the end of the lap they come. From Tours towards Virage Dupont, the Ferrari sticks its nose up the inside of the big Mercedes, but couldn't find a way by. 56 minutes are still on the clock as the cars power past the pits now, and the Mercedes is so strong in a straight line that the car is able to hang on to the place. 4th is Vantour, 5th is Gattuso, who makes his run now on the inside going down towards Ferrière. Through he goes. Picks up the place. So now 4th is 71. Now, if Stefano Gattuso can do good lap times here, then he's got a chance. Meanwhile, just think about this for a second. Stefano Telli, who is the leading car driver in the last stint, 2 minutes 3.7 on the last lap. Maxime Martin, who's chasing him, 2 minutes 0.3, the car's best lap of the race. Remember, just to recap on what Bas Lijnders said, this is the car that's slow, it's not on the pace, and they're struggling. And now it's running 3rd. It's going to inherit 2nd on the next pit stop from car 57 Ferrari, that's the notional race leader, and it is catching the number 1 Audi. It's got to make up 10.8 seconds, and last time through it was 3.4 seconds quicker. Yet again, it looks as though not only could Marc VDS Racing take a win, but a win out of nowhere. Now, what's happening behind? Is anybody likely to catch Maxime Martin? Well, Andrea Bertolini is also lapping in the 2-minute 0 bracket. What about Mark Goossens? No, 2-minute 1s. And long way back, Dino Lenardi in number 43 Audi. The car started by Mark Soord. That's just come alive because Dino Lenardi is the quickest of the 3 drivers, and that's also lapping in the 2-minute bracket. Now, OK, Stefano Telli might be being held up a bit in traffic. He should also be able to go faster. But once again, things are happening with different speed of drivers getting into cars. And number 4, even though Mike Hezemans and Bert Langevin are experienced GT racers, Henri Moser has just done that car's best lap of the race as well, intriguingly. A little bit maligned on occasions is Henri Moser, but in this championship he certainly rises to the occasion. And And the car now running in 10th spot and has the opportunity, I think, to gain more places before the very end. Its next target is car number 9, and that's Mike Wainwright at the wheel. And of course, under the regulations of 2 driver cars in the Pro-Am class, he has got to do the lion's share of the driving. Car 60, just seen it serving its most recent pit stop. It has rejoined ahead of the Audi, but number 1, Stefano Ortelli, dives past. And number 5, tucked up behind. Jack Clark still being shown as the man behind the wheel of that car, although Edward Mondron has yet to have a go, assuming that the transponder is in the right place. It's down to the teams to set that rather than the timing system. So it's up to the driver to make sure with the team's assistance that it's in the right place to clarify which driver is in the car. The team manager of number 41 is now having to go to the race director, not for the first time, I think, that, the Santinot Racing Squad. Pro Cup is Audi, BMW, Ferrari, Porsche, BMW, McLaren. The orange McLaren you can see runs 6th in class at the moment. The Edward Mondron, Nico Verdonk, Jack Clark McLaren. And that too, I think, could still gain ground before the very end. We've got 53 minutes still to run, as there is the car that leads the way in the hands of Alessandro Bonaccini, but it's yet to make its last stop to put Eugenio Amos, the former Lamborghini Super Trofeo racer, behind the wheel of it. Giacomo Petrobelli doing his usual tremendous job in the first stint. Number 8 Porsche, but it's back to us, the black Porsche just going through the shot. Christian Menzel at the wheel in 11th place. That's another one that is going to be able to gain places before the end. An 83 Porsche, which lost a lap just after Eric Clement got behind the wheel. Philippe Gache now driving it, is in 21st place. There's the leading car. Bonaccini gets past Philippe Gache, who sees him coming, pulls out of the way, and Bonaccini hustling on. Now, of course, they lead outright, but the target is to try and take a victory in Pro-Am. Now, on the most recent round of pit stops, I just wonder whether there was a delay in the pit stop for 51 Dan Brown, because that car has fallen back behind Bertolini and behind Rafael Vantour. So we'll hopefully get Dan Brown in a few moments and find out not only how come he did such a great job, well, part of the answer is he's a quick driver, it was a super job done by Dan Brown, but also they seem to have lost time on that pit stop for some reason. Let's try and catch up why. Dan Brown in the pit lane with Hayley.
Dan, after such a mega performance in the Ferrari, you've now lost quite a bit of time. What was the reason for that?
We had an issue on the pit stop. Giuseppe pressed start and it didn't start, so it's massively frustrating, but there's still an hour of the race to go, so it's not over yet, and we're still in 4th position, so it's all good.
Thank you.
So that answers that. Soul destroying, isn't it, for a driver? You do all that hard work, you get the car in the lead, you work hard, you keep the gap, and something as simple as the car refusing to fire up means that you end up with a totally different look to the race for the last hour. There is Giuseppe Ciro, he's in 8th place. Mark Goossens ahead of him, lapping now the 2-minute 0 bracket. The one car that's going to tumble soon is number 14, Rafael Vantour, because he's lapping in the 2-minute 5s, and those around him are, or those chasing him, are 2 minutes, or in the case of Giuseppe Ciro now, he's just on the car's best lap of the race at 1:59.5. He's absolutely flying. Well wound up is Giuseppe Ciro, and behind him is Henri Moser, behind him is Christian Menzel, who is doing Porsche number 8's best laps of the race. It always draws attention to itself, the Haribo Sweets car, partly because of its livery, but also now because of the times that it's doing. And then also behind is Jerome Policon running in 11th place. McLaren number 5, 14th, the Clark Mondron Verdonk car. And there, Mercedes in that gaggle is the number 18 car that was partly responsible for the early dramas for the 35 Nissan Alex Bunkum was telling you about earlier on. 75 Mark Goossens versus 51 Giuseppe Ciro. The Ferrari tries to go right round the outside, going through Senior. It can't do it. This is for 7th place. Can he have a go heading into the next corner down towards Berset? Yes, he can. Great stuff. Giuseppe Ciro, after a long pit stop, goes 7th, but he's going to go wide. And Mark Goossens has a look back on the inside line in the crumpled Porsche, but he can't find a way through. Giuseppe Ciro then bags 7th place, and the way that he's going, he's going to get more places before much longer, and all of that matters for him as far as the Pro-Am Cup contest is concerned. People were saying this was going to be a Porsche circuit. Well, the cars have looked okay over the course of the weekend, but they're a graphic illustration of how fast the Ferrari is relative to the Porsche, because Mark Goossens, make no mistake, is not a slow driver, but Giuseppe Ciro picks him off with some brave driving on the fast back part of the circuit and comes over the timing line now in 51 Ferrari up into 7th place, and Mark Goossens dropped back into 8th. It was a slowish lap from the Porsche at 2 minutes 1, so the Ferrari charging through another lap below 2 minutes. At the moment, Giuseppe Ciro is the quickest man on the circuit, and the STP sponsored Ferrari run by Amato Ferrari's team going great guns. He goes past a yellow flag there being waved. He heads now down towards approach the chicane where the Viper, after its smouldering session, is being retrieved. Up front then, Alessandro Bonaccini leading the way and still to serve his last pit stop. This is the car that leads Pro-Am, but what we need to see is where it blends back in after they put Eugenio Amos behind the wheel. Stefano Ortelli being caught a little by Maxime Martin. Some of this is down to traffic, I'll grant you, but even so, it's a fascinating battle developing between these two, and then they are being caught by Daniel Zampieri. Fifth on the road is Rafael Vanthor, set to drop. Sixth is Andrea Bertolini, seventh is Ciro, in eighth place is Goossens, ninth is Moser, 10th is Christian Menzel. Now the gap last time between Ortelli and Martin was 7.6 seconds, and that should therefore be coming down, and behind them, 7.9 seconds back, is where you find Daniel Zampieri. I don't mean Daniel Zampieri, it's still shown as him, but it's Stefano Gattuso at the wheel. But car 71, Stefano Gattuso running fourth ahead of Rafael Vanthor. And Giuseppe Ciro is hunting down Andrea Bertolini at about a second a lap. Not so easy to do because Bertolini is a real star in a GT car. FIA GT champion, GT1 World Champion as well. And good to have him in the Blancpain Endurance Series. And he's going to make 52, the Honda Nafil's car, fly in this last stint. Now Bonaccini's lead is 34 seconds. That's going to disappear when it pits. Ortelli to Martin last time around went up, in fact, to 11 seconds. So that was possibly down to the traffic. It's always a perennial problem with such a big field, even though we've had a few weeded out, it must be said. There's Mark Goossens, 8th place at the moment. The Curia Corse BMW is also, there it is, just going through the shot, looking strong once again because it's in 17th place, Ollie Bryant at the wheel. And the Jones Brothers Mercedes, now Mike Jordan at the wheel, after its most recent pit stop, has dropped outside the top 20. Catch up on that in just a moment because as you look at 43 Audi, Tino Lenardi at the wheel in 19th place. That car fending off Gregoire de Moustier, who has taken the car, number 12 McLaren, back from Duncan Tappy. At number 90 in the pit lane and a long way down, and that I think may well be a pit stop because it's now lost 6 laps, and after looking very strong early on, the car has come in and I fear may well be staying in the pit lane. Right, the leader in, Bonaccini to give way to Eugenio Amos, so that's going to put Stefano Ortelli into the lead of the race. He was always the real race leader, but he's going to do it on track anyway now. So it's going to be Ortelli versus Martin versus Gattuso as the top 3 in the remaining 47 minutes, give or take, of the race as you look down on the 57 pit stop. And where that rejoins in class in Pro-Am is going to be key. Now the number 1 Audi continues to hold sway, and his last lap was again a good chunk quicker, possibly because of traffic, with Maxime Martin, 71, the Stefano Gattuso Ferrari hunting down the BMW, and Andrea Bertolini in number 52 has done another personal best lap as he joins the mix as well. Right, tyres are changed as well, which is going to cost them a bit more time on the pit stop here for the Ferrari. And 57, remember, is going to drop down the order. What it can't really afford to do is drop down behind 51. At the moment, Pro-Am is going to be this car in the lead of it, Andrea Bertolini, ahead of Rafael Vanthor's Mercedes that's being caught by Giuseppe Ciro, and so 57 may well end up rejoining 4th in class, having been leading most recently. But of course, while you've got a driver doing a given lap time, you've got others lower down doing faster laps, therefore bringing down the gap in real terms. Ryan McLaren, then the Jaguar through, and 57 now with Eugenio Amos at the wheel. The Bergamo-based Lamborghini dealer behind the wheel blasts into the race. Andrea Bertolini then picks up the lead in the Pro-Am class. And last time through did the car's best lap of the race. Nick Homerson and Louis Machiels, both quick amateur racers, but Andrea Bertolini, who's a former test driver for the Ferrari Formula 1 team, part of the recent Maserati effort in GT racing, and very much a Ferrari driver this year for AF Corsa, now working his magic behind the wheel. Another one to look for lower down is number 8, because you've got Christian Menzel in the top 10 and catching those ahead of him. Di Leonardi's Audi, 19th, and also making up ground, catching number 9, which is still Mike Wainwright, who is not as quick as Rob Bell, as we know. And there is 51. Has that got a problem? It has. Giuseppe Ciro, after catching and doing the car's best laps of the race, has slowed. And this looks like he's heading for the pit lane. 51. Doesn't look like he's got any damage, but the car has just lost pace. And Giuseppe Ciro, for a moment, might have a soft tyre, but the car is heading for the pit lane. So that's the next one for Haley to go and investigate if possible, as 51 Ferrari heads towards the pit lane, and this significant within Pro-Am. And we're getting a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane for car number 41. We go back to Gentleman Trophy for this. This is the Philippe Marie, Robert Hiss and Pierre Hershey Audi. And a drive-through penalty then for car 41 speeding in the pit lane. And that is significant, of course, within the battle for class honours. Right, in comes the AF Corsa Ferrari, as Andrea Bertolini's car is going great guns. Giuseppe Ciro comes in with problems. Let's see if we can work out why. The car comes in, and the team ready to receive it. Now, can they do anything on the pit apron, or is it going to have to go to the garage? In comes the car, it stops, more or less in the right block. And those little trolley jacks are not good news, because it means that they're going to go underneath, the car's going to be whipped round and taken into the garage, and that's never a good sign. Stefano Ortelli leads the way. Number 1 Audi then up front. The last lap, the gap came down between it and the BMW of Maxime Martin. There are 43 minutes to go. Traffic playing a huge part in all of this, so if you get a clear lap, sometimes the BMW can be quicker. If not, the Audi can hang on to its advantage. Stefano Gattuso is still third, hunting them down. And then in 4th place, 52, which is Andrea Bertolini, ahead of Rafael Vantor, and then Mark Goossens in 6th place in the Porsche, also starting to work his way into the mix here. Telly through. That last lap, the car's best of the race, 2:0. Maxime Martin does his best lap at 1:59, so he brings the gap down ever so slightly. Again, clear lap for both of them, relatively speaking, and Maxime Martin once again underlining his speed in these sorts of cars by closing up onto Stefano Ortelli. Maxime, best line as Marcus Paltaluk all drove at Le Mans a couple of weeks ago, and turning the BMW down towards the chicane. The car currently on lap 64, and still pushing very, very hard indeed. So Dan Brown's car is in the pit lane to try and find out exactly why, because Giuseppe Ciro has brought it in, and great disappointment. The Dan Brown Ferrari then looks like it's going to be out of the race. Let's go to the pits and catch up on Dan with Haley.
Dan, obviously a disappointment for the team. What's going on?
I'm not totally sure, but I think it's gearbox this day over.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Gearbox problems, looking like that's the end of the day for that car. And Dan Brown, very, very disappointed. Great work from him early on. And the car in its garage in retirement. In time, 71 Ferrari continues to push on. And so also does Maxime Martin, trying to bring down the gap. 41 minutes just under remain in this 3rd round of the Blancpain Endurance Series. 71 Ferrari working its way in 3rd place. His last lap in the 2-minute ones, which meant that the chasing Andrea Bertolini was a little bit quicker and therefore closer. And can we get the leading Pro-Am class car onto the overall podium? After the pit stop as well, 57 has rejoined 8th, which is 3rd in class. That gives up the class lead, in other words. And it's helped, of course, by the demise of 51. It's gained another place out of that as well. There you can see 49, which is the Howard Blanc, Yannick Malagol, Jean-Marc Michelier Ferrari. That is 52, that's your 4th place car. Andrea Bertolini then chasing after 71 Ferrari, and he has got to make up 11.9 seconds. The last lap he was slower, but what really matters for 52 is the class win. and it would be the first victory of the year. In fact, if it was to win the class, looking pretty good, it would be the third different winner in the 3 races we've had so far, because at Monza it was the Amos Petrobelli Bonacini car that took honours in the class, and Mark Hayek and Peter Cox victorious at Silverstone. So a third different winner potentially in the 3 races to date, if things stay as they are in the class. Andrea Bertolini working his way out of Nicole. And a slow BMW with a puncture. That's 37, that was 12. Simon Knapp at the wheel of it. It's a front left that's gone down. Both Audis had punctures yesterday, Matt, during the pre-qualifying session, but they've escaped okay now. But a very slow BM heading to the pit lane. We saw 42 Ferrari earlier with Emmett O'Brien at the wheel with its punctured tyre limping back to the pit lane. Similar situation for 37. So tumbling down the order, Simon Knapp. As though it's going to be not only a long lap but also quite a bit of work to make sure that there's no damage done after it's dragged its way back to the pit lane. At least there's still a bit of rubber on the rim. That's drivers wanting to get that without losing too much time, but without doing any damage to the car. Next single-seater racer, Simon Knapp heading for the pit lane as Stefano Ortelli comes through. That lap at 2:0. Wait for the BMW in the background to come through and see what the gap is as it comes down. Maxime Martin is a 10th slower, so it just widens to 12 seconds. Now it's a bit cat and mouse, this gap, and it looks as though Stefano Ortelli may now be able to preserve this to the end, but is anybody going to catch the BMW there in second place? Number 71 Ferrari still going strongly in third place. It is Stefano Gattuso at the wheel, we're being told, even though the transponder on 71 still insists it's Daniel Zampieri, but a change of driver there after that most recent round of pit stops. This is the car that's 4th, and you can see Andrea Bertolini at the wheel. Now Mark Goossens runs 5th. What's happening lower down? Christian Menzel is catching Bonacini. Simon Knapp has just made it as far as the pit lane in the BMW, so he's lost places, he's going to lose more. Dino Lenardi, I was talking about a little while ago, starting to do stellar things in the 43 Audi. He's got that car up into 16th place overall. Next target being the Ecurie Ecos BMW of Ollie Bryant. So Bertolini heads towards us on the Mistral straight. And behind, the next car to look for on the lead lap is the 75 Porsche that was just creeping into the shot. Mark Goossens, despite the fact the car suffered damage early on, it's remained there or thereabouts. He is 41 seconds away from the leader. Now Robert Hissom's car's got a drive-through for speeding in the pit lane. Let's hear from Robert Hissom. He's in the pits with Hayley Coxon.
Robert, sadly you've just had a drive-through penalty. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we're a bit unlucky. He came through. He actually thought the pit limiter was in the second gear. He didn't know, but it does not really make a lot of difference for us because we're going to be in P3 even with a drive-through penalty. At least it happened now rather than Spa.
You've had quite a season so far in the Gentleman's Trophy fight.
Well, it's been fantastic. I've been out of racing for 2 years, and we're back and getting a bit of confidence, and the car's going great, the team's great, and the gentleman class is fantastic. We're having a great time. We're on the podium every weekend, so we're happy.
Thank you.
And that's how it should be in the Gentleman's Trophy. People enjoying themselves, having their own private battles, and the car, there it is, number 41, which has had Robert Hissom and Philippe Marie behind the wheel of it. Philippe Marie, the Euro Race Car Series driver. Now it's got Pierre Hershey, whose son Jonathan has been a quick GT1 racer in years past, and Pierre himself came from the Euro Cup Megane Trophy into GT3 Europe, the European Championship before Blancpain, and he will bring the car home for what's going to be 3rd in class provisionally. So Stefano Ortelli leading the way. Last lap, Maxime Martin was slightly quicker, so still this elasticated gap shuffles, and there is 14 facing the wrong way, Rafael Van Thor. He's going to get the car going, but that's not going to help him in his quest to hang on to places in the Pro-Am Cup. He gets going now. The car 2nd in class, but it's going to lose out potentially as a result of this, because as it goes across the line, Bonacini's going to be much nearer. How did it spin? Was it self-induced or was it Audi-induced? No, it was Ferrari-induced. Bang. Up the inside goes 59. And that was all rather aggressive to turn the car around. Andrea Barlesi at the wheel of it, and basically used the Mercedes as a brake, I think, because that was a bit optimistic from a long way back. That dived up the inside and whacked the Mercedes around. We'll now see how strong the Ferrari is, because a 458 thumping a Mercedes, big strong car, is going to be an interesting test of the construction of the 458. Lower down the order, Henri Moser. Of course, after the spin for Rafael Vanthor, is much, much closer in the number 4 BMW. Moser is 7th in the Sister Mark VDS Racing Team car. 52, Andrea Bertolini goes through. A Kyriakos BMW in the background. Oliver Bryant at the wheel of it. And he is currently in 16th place, having fallen now behind Andrea Barlesi, who is really pushing on, as you've just seen in that Ferrari. Next target for Barlesi is Dino Bernardi, but the last lap a bit delayed, and in fact Ollie Bryant is coming back at the Ferrari. Goes to the inside. Has the Ferrari got damage after the contact? Ollie Bryant nips through on the inside, goes 15th overall. Good move that. So Ollie Bryant, a winner already this year in British GT in this car, one in the wet at Alton Park, coming now up towards the end of the lap and up into 15th spot. Does Barlesi pit, or is he going to be able to carry on at this slightly reduced pace? He's lost out to the BMW, but maybe the car is now starting to be hampered because of the contact of a lap ago when it hit that Mercedes at Virage du Point. Up to the end of the lap goes Ollie Bryant. What happens to the Ferrari? Does it pit? Does it carry on? Let's see. I think Andrea Barlesi is going to carry on. Yes, he is. Comes up, crosses the line. The Belgian driver back to GTs after expelling prototypes in sports car racing, heads now down towards the first corner at Verrières. We've got 33 minutes of the race to go. There is 57, which did lead out right for a time. Big, big sideways moment for Eugenio Amos coming out of the last corner at Virage du Pont, up over the line, and he is currently running in 8th spot. There's Henri Moser, 7th in the BMW. Now he is chasing after Rafael Vanthor, and he's catching Eugenio Amos, looking very spectacular there as he flings the car sideways, coming out of the last corner, all up the curve out of Virage du Pont, powers over the line. And of course fighting for class honours. It rather does look as though 52 Andrea Bertolini now is going to be able to bring that car of Nick Homerson and Louis Macchions through for a class win. 57 being shown as Bonaccini, because Eugenio Amos behind the wheel, as we saw on that last pit stop. The transponder has not been adjusted to the right setting, hence it's giving you the wrong driver. And a bit of opposite lock being applied. Amos, who has gone well in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo in years past, was a Lamborghini driver last year, if you recall, with Marl Alhoff and Albert Turtle, Texas, and for a myriad of reasons didn't get a huge amount of driving, so he's decided to switch teams and switch cars for this year. 8th overall the car runs, ahead of the Porsche of Christian Menzel. 32 minutes on the clock. Up towards Senior goes the pack. Ricard de Mustier, the head of the group of cars you've just been looking at, 12. There is 88. Now Rob Bath's great efforts early on then gave way to Leon Price. Now Jordan Grogor at the wheel of that car. Where is it? It's 31st. And for Jordan, who was somewhat red-faced after he crashed behind the safety car, remember, at Monza, just wants track time. And to be fair to him, the turbo was kicking in rather savagely, particularly in the wet at Monza. And as he tried to accelerate out of the corner, then he just lost the back and off it went into the barrier. But because it was behind the safety car, it made it look even worse than it really was. But Jordan Grogor now just wants track time and mileage, and adapting pretty strongly to racing at this level. The Gulf McLaren's, Mike Wainwright is 17th, and the Raul Goethe car further down the order after Stuart Hall's efforts early on. That's 27th for Raul Goethe's car. Mike Wainwright comes over the line, and there you can see Rafael Vanthor, and not that far behind is Henri Moser, another 2.5 seconds taken out that time, so the gap 6th to 7th continues to come down. Henri Moser for the top 6 is a real possibility now before the end of the race. The cars turning their way down towards the chicane. Mercedes and Rafael Vanthor, who is actually doing a pretty good job. I was anticipating the lap times to be slower than this, but Rafael, having taken the car over after that middle stint from Koen Wouters, is doing a good job. Runs this huge kitchen and tableware company in Belgium. Very experienced Bell car racer, Belgian GT racer as well, but now he's got himself caught up in traffic, and he's got Henri Moser right on his tail. There's number 10, which is Jerome Policon, running in 10th place, but for 6th and 7th, the change is imminent, isn't it now, between the Mercedes and the BMW that are nose to tail, and also Jerome Policon has got himself onto the back of Christian Menzel's Porsche. Menzel busy flashing his lights to warn the traffic to get out of his way. Jerome Policon is right up behind him, and again, these are Pro-Am class battles, Pro-Am Cup battles. And behind the Ferrari there, you've got number 70, Nick Katzberg, who's taken over from Niels Bauhaus, and that car is in 19th place overall. Nick Katzberg, very, very fast GT3 racer, of course, in the European Championship before he turned his attention to Blancpain. Christian Menzel busy flashing his lights, and I think is the United Auto Sports McLaren just up the road. Should now have Alvaro Parent behind the wheel. and that car is 26th apparent at the wheel. There's Nick Katzberg. His next target is Gregoire de Moustier, and Menzel, I think the lights are in permanent flash mode now, and he's trying to fend off the Ferrari of Policon as well. And then Nick Katzberg, who is there behind them. Irritatingly for him, he's a lap adrift, but he's trying to become part of that battle as Policon goes up alongside the Porsche and gets his nose chopped off. Christian Menzel moves across, takes the line for the next element of the circuit, heading now towards Village. But again, Jérôme Policon tries to force the issue and go for a gap. Nick Katzberg a lap adrift of these two, but running on the same pace, if not better, because he's caught up to them now. And Menzel can't do anything about catching Perret to lap him because he's trying to fend off the Ferrari. As to the inside line goes Policon, almost touching, and the Ferrari has to sit behind the Porsche. Over the timing line they come, nose to tail. This, the battle for 9th and 10th places. Ignore the BMW in a sense because it's not on the same lap, so Nick Katzberg stays 19th. But ahead of him is this great fight going on. Christian Menzel, the former German Carrera Cup champion, keeping the experienced Jérôme Policon at bay. And as they work their way now out to Verrières, down towards the chicane, the gap at the start of this lap had come down yet again by another 0.3 of a second. Jérôme Policon, who was a Formula Ford 1600 racer back in the mid-1980s, got as far as Formula 3 and then Formula 3000. Turned his attention in the late 90s to Clio's, the European Clio Cup, and then touring car racing and Porsches and GT racing, now running teams as well as racing cars very successfully. But he's got a problem. The problem is Nick Katzberg wants to get past him. Policon can afford to let him go because that BMW is not on the lead lap. But if he carries on defending, and you can see what's happening now, he is defending, so the Porsche is pulling away once again. The Sofrev team needs to be on the radio here, telling Policon to ignore that BMW and let it go by. But then again, in a straight line, it won't go by because it's hampered for speed. It's only through the corners that Nick Katzberg is going to have a chance. The BMW then, on the back of that little group, through the corners, it's good. And even if Policon were to let him go by, the chances are he'd then have to find a way back past him the next time they hit the Mistral straight. So once again, at the end of the straight through Senior, you've got Policon running wide, gaining momentum, and having a look on the inside then of Menzel's Porsche that gives him racing room, runs too wide in fact, and through goes the Ferrari, and the BMW tries to nip up the inside as well. Nick Katzberg, who's not racing with Menzel, wants to get past him anyway. He can't do it, not on the outside, so he goes to the inside line, almost up alongside then as they head down towards Village. And Christian Menzel hangs on to the place, but while he's defending from Katzberg, he's losing touch with Policon, who is now 9th overall. Menzel goes wide, Katzberg up the inside, 19th placed car passes the 10th placed car, and up over the timing line they go. Let's see how long it takes the Porsche to get back ahead. The lights are still flashing. Christian Menzel wants to get back past Nick Katzberg, who, as I say, is in 19th place overall, a lap apart for these two cars. Meantime, Stefan Ortelli continues to be caught by Maxime Martin. The gap last time was down by 2 seconds, which is a very, very big gain. And it's 7.7 seconds between them. Now, we have had it at 7.6 and then crept up once again. So Maxime Martin continues to push on. Now, I just wonder whether Stefan Ortelli is driving within himself. If the gap were to come down to anything that was uncomfortable, could he up his pace and pull away again? Or is he genuinely going as fast as the Audi will permit? There's the second place car, so you can see the gap. And again, that time through, the gap is down only by 0.3 of a second. And quicker than the pair of them is Stefano Guttuso here in 3rd place. 71 Ferrari turning its way down towards the chicane. So there is 71. It's Guttuso at the wheel. Great middle stint by Daniel Zampieri in that car. Let's hear from him. Hayley?
Daniel Stefano's definitely got great pace out there. Can you improve your current position?
Now we are 3rd. Unfortunately, we lost some time during the safety car. We were 1st, but we lost 12th position. So now we say to see what will happen. Now we are 3rd. It's coming to rain. Always is possible. We say to see.
Thank you.
So anything is possible. The car has good pace, and it's not that far behind the leading pair. We also have a report of number 43 with a puncture. That's Dino Lenardi at turn 14. And turn 14 is Tour, which is the penultimate corner. So if you're going to get a puncture, that's not a bad place to have one because you're almost at pit in. So Dino Lenardi, yes, is in the pit lane now. 18th at the start of the lap, now down the pit lane. And that's going to cost that car places in Pro-Am. So Stefano Guttuso, there's confirmation that it's him behind the wheel. I'm saying it is, but you've seen Zampieri in the pit lane now. but the transponder issue is such that it's still showing Daniel Zampieri behind the wheel of the car, and up he turns, Stefano Gattuso, towards the completion of lap 72. Stefano Telli leads the way. There's what's left of the tyre, the left rear Michelin, another car with a puncture, Dino Lenardi. Now, are people picking up tyres because they're running wide onto debris, or is it the stresses being placed on the tyres? What I'm thinking is whether we're going to see any tyre issues affect the leading cars in this race. There is the leading car, number 1. Telli does a 2 minutes 1, and Maxime Martin a 2 minutes 0.2, and he nips past the Audi that recovers and rejoins the race. So again, the gap comes down. 6.7 seconds it is now between the top two. It's worth monitoring this. With 24 minutes to go, Maxime Martin is pushing on, but he's starting to run out of time. 24 minutes to go, and that lead gap down and down and down. Down to the chicane goes the BMW. In third place, Stefano Gattuso on that last lap was slower than the BMW but quicker than the Audi. And then fourth overall is Andrea Bertolini, fifth is Mark Goosen, sixth is Henri Moser, seventh is Bonacini, Eugenio Amos in the car shown as being Bonacini, eighth is Rafael Vantour, and he's being reeled in by Jérôme Policon. Now that Policon has got himself past Christian Menzel, that gap's coming down and down and down. What else can Moser do in this race? Can he gain some places? I think it's possibly plateaued now because Mark Goosen's ahead of him, is lapping fractionally quicker. So the BMW looks like sixth is going to be its result. Mark Goosen's good for fifth. There's 37 back out after its pit stop for the puncture. 21st in Montcalm has dropped down. Didn't lose too many places, but you don't lose any. And so the car falls outside the top 20 as Maxime Martin continues to push on. And the last lap that he did was another 8 tenths quicker. In the first sector of this lap he's slower, in the second sector he's slower. But the last sector is where the car scores because it's the twisty twiddly slow bit, and that's certainly the benefit of the BMW, both in terms of its nimbleness and the way they've set up the car for this race. Heading towards the end of lap 73 then, Stefano Telli about to go across the timing line. And when he does, we'll see what the lap time is of the Audi. He goes through, it's a 2 minutes 0.5. Maxime Martin getting a bit stuck in traffic there behind the Ferrari, and the lap that he does is a 2 minutes 0.1. Again, he's able to make up 7 tenths of a second in the last sector alone. So that's where the BMW has the advantage. And so the gap comes down. Who's he got stuck behind? 17, isn't it there? Which is the Ferrari, Dennis Anderson at the wheel of it. So Maxime Martin, 22 minutes to go, continues to push hard. Maxime really has become, even though we talk about other very quick drivers in this championship, the benchmark driver, because Mark VDS Racing realises that whenever they put him in the car it will go quickly, and the other teams accept that when he's in that car there's possibly nobody quicker, and Maxime Martin continues to do stellar times in the car, given that it's now in the third hour of the race, less than 22 minutes to go. So Bas Linders must be well chuffed about this. The car is a contender. Let's go back down to the pit lane. Bas Linders is with Haley Coxon.
Baz, Max is fighting hard to close the gap there, and it looks like he's doing it. How is he doing it on track?
Well, he's doing really well. We're at the moment a little bit faster, not much, but maybe it's just enough. Depends a bit on the traffic. It's very difficult. Of course, we're lucky with the mistakes of the others again. The Ferrari had a problem with the wheel nut, I saw, and yeah. But it's going to be very, very tight. There's not 20 minutes left. Stefano Telli is a very experienced driver, so he will not make many mistakes.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's intriguing this, isn't it? You've got the old master in Stefano Telli versus the young gun in Maxime Martin. That's the mood in the camp at Mark VDS. Right, there is Stefano Telli. So I wonder whether there's going to be an opinion offered from the Audi squad as to whether Stefan can hang on to the race lead or whether he might be caught. It's through the last sector where we've got the BMW at its best, the twisty part of the circuit, and that's really where Maxime Martin is able to score back some of the time. Well, Telli does a 2 minute 0.9, the team well aware of what the BMW is up to, and it's a slower lap from Maxime Martin. He's still quicker in the last sector, but he got caught up in traffic early on in the lap, so now you can see lots of cars ahead of Maxime Martin. He's got to get past the Jaguar next. So in other words, the gap widens in the traffic, and 20 minutes to go. Stefano Telli, I think he's going to just about hang on to this, but Maxime Martin, with his very heavy right foot, comes up to try and get past the Jaguar, which won't get out of the way for him. Maxime's going to have to force the issue down at the chicane. He does so now, goes through, puts himself ahead of Laurence Frey in the Jaguar that, even though it's made quite a lot of pit stops, is 32nd in the race, so good development this for the team. Freddie Varth and Gabriele Gardin as the other two drivers, so lap by lap, more data, more progress is made. Right, Martin for the moment clear of the traffic. There is the leader. BMW behind is a lapped car. Next one, lights are flashing, is Maxime Martin. In sector 1, he's 3/10 slower. The next sector ends 2/3 of the way down the Mistral straight. He's about to go through that timing point. Through it goes the Audi. Through it will go the BMW that claims not to be that good in a straight line. And the evidence backs that up because he's a 10th slower, but a 10th is not that bad. Yes, it's time lost, but he should be able to make that back through the final sector of the lap, because now you're into twisty parts of circuit. Martin hustles on. Stefano Otelli leads the way. Third behind them, Stefano Gattuso. And fourth is Andrea Bertolini, still leading Pro-Am from Eugenio Amos. And we're getting a report that there's a bit of rain out on track. They can see the spots falling. Right, well, it's come later than planned, or later than anticipated, rather. But with less than 20 minutes to go, they're all on slicks, and it's starting possibly to get a bit greasy. One or two umbrellas have gone up in the grandstand opposite me. And the WRT team, running, of course, Ortelli. Let's hear from Christopher Hauser with Haley.
Christopher, Max is fighting hard. He's closing the gap on Stefan. With his vast experience, is he going to hold up his position?
Yeah, at the moment it's really a tough race. We can see that they have a big battle. Yeah, it's true. Martin close a bit the gap, but I know Steph is pushing quite hard, and if he get a free lap, he tried to make a bigger gap for us. At the end, we cross the fingers now. I mean, we have 60 minutes to go. I hope the best for us, but we will see.
From previous races, these conditions tend to favour both the BMW and the Audi.
What can you get read?
In previous races, we've seen these conditions now it started raining can benefit the Audi as well as the BMW.
It could be, yeah. If it's really raining, then our car is really good on rain. So, okay, yeah, we could hope for rain, but at the end, I think I prefer it like it is now.
Thank you, Christopher.
Both in terms of the weather and the car's position, no doubt. He prefers it if the car's leading and therefore comes through for a win. As Pierre Dieudonné in the headset, the grey hair. Pierre, very, very good touring car racer himself many moons ago when he gave up racing. He was also a very good journalist. Went to work with Yuzo Shonak at Orica and helped mastermind lots of Viper success, both at Le Mans and in class, and in the FIA GT Championship, 1999-2000 era. And now with the WRT squad, running the Belgian Audi Club cars, and his experience from behind the wheel and from on the pit wall being used to good effect. And Stefano Otelli, who is very much an old master of GT racing, former Le Mans winner, of course, leading the way. Spa 24 Hours winner as well, when he won in the second class. It was NGT Porsche, won outright in a rain-affected race back in, what was it, 2003. Well, there is Maxime Martin, who would dearly love a Spa 24-hour win because his father was a multiple winner of it in touring car days, mainly before Capri's with Gordon Spice. But Maxime Martin in second place here, despite the fact the car has got this extra weight, 30 kilos on board, plus the ride height up by 10 millimetres. And Marc VDS Racing has overcome that effectively over the line. The gap is down again by another 0.4 of a second. So the gap reduced once again. Maxime Martin continues to close. We've got a report of another spinner. And car 80 it is. That's the Jaguar, is it not? That's rotated. So Laurence Frey has had a moment. He rejoins, albeit places in time lost. 32nd that car is currently. Stefano Gattuso still pushing on there. Third, 71 Ferrari. And now with 16 minutes to go, it's a different situation from that we had at Silverstone, but it's the same two cars involved, but the BMW chasing the Audi rather than the Audi being in second place and watching the BMW drive off into the distance. 71 Ferrari, quick all weekend. Daniel Zampieri was saying they lost time under the safety car, they lost places. Yes, they did, but that's because they pitted late. And you've seen how other teams, this being one of them, AF Corsa, was really able to benefit by bringing the car in during the safety car period, but by leaving Davide Rigon out, everybody else closed up behind him. They didn't have to serve another pit stop when he did, and so they all gained ground ahead of him. And you kind of wonder whether that was a bad mistake on Kessel Racing's part. There seemed to be a lot more teams up and down the pit lane that were smarter during that safety car situation. Andrea Bertolini lies fourth, heads down the Mistral, and is being caught a little by Mark Goossens in the Porsche, but I don't think enough for that to come to be a battle before the very end of the race. Looking lower down the order, Rafael Vantour is still strong in 8th spot overall. Now there is number 4, Henri Moser, who is 6th, not catching Mark Goosen, so it looks as though 6th will be as good as it gets for that car. But to be fair, that's the best that it's had this season, because it's been a pretty fraught year so far for the second car. It was perilously close to losing a lap at Monza, which eventually it did. Then it didn't last very long at Silverstone because the car there had an electrical issue that stopped the fuel pump, and so the car retired early doors, even though Mike Hazeman set the best lap of the race, but the car didn't finish. So hopefully here it will go to the end and it will get a good result. Coming onto the Mistral straight now. Just up ahead is Gregoire de Moustier, who is a lap down. That car was running well early on, but had to make a pit stop and therefore cost itself some time. Now that he's back in the race, going strongly once again, with the efforts of Gregoire de Moustier and Duncan Tappy in that car, serving it well. And there you can see Eugenio Amos's car with the wiper on. The only one so far that we've spotted that on, but just wonder whether this is going to become ever more of a factor. Stefano Ortelli then, and leads the way, and yes, raindrops reported by the marshals. That's now on the timing screen, so the teams can warn their drivers that an element of caution is needed. Stefano Ortelli having been 7th at Monza when the car had a little bit of suspension damage, and although it was good to go to the end, it wasn't good enough for him to push 100%, plus they lost time in the last pit stop. Things improved at Silverstone, where the car was in 3rd place behind the Sandstrom Vantour Piccini car, and now the car leads the way. Number 3, Maxime Martin then in 2nd place. How's he looking in the sectors? Marginally quicker in sector 1, marginally quicker in sector 2 as well. If this all strings together nicely, then it's going to be a good lap for him. And remember that the other Audi we lost early on, that's the car that's had the brace of 2nd places so far this year, but it's a real turn up to lose that car. The Vita 4.1 BMW out early on as well. The Nissan we lost early on. The Lamborghini we lost early on. The Blancpain Reiter, that was the Mark Hayek car when it was tapped into its spin. And plenty others that have been in the wars as well during the course of the race. So, into the pit lane with another puncture is a McLaren, that's Raul Goethe. So 69 has got problems. I say into the pit lane, I'm not sure he's actually got that far, has he? He's limping his way towards the end of the Mistral. That's where he's got to. And 69, Raul Goethe, has got about a 1/3 of a lap to go. Wisely, he gets off the road. No doubt Dave Price is on the radio to him, telling him to get off the circuit and just bring the car back, don't get in anybody's way. So Raul Goethe does exactly that. And it's another car with a puncture late in the race. Are these punctures going to affect any of the leading runners? There's the sister car, 18th. Mike Wainwright is doing a very, very good job here of keeping that car in contention, but he's about to go a place down. Philippe Gache in the Porsche to the inside, he goes through, and all of that is right ahead of the leader. Stefano Ortelli getting stuck in. He doesn't want to lose any time relative to Maxime Martin, but equally he doesn't want to get involved in a battle. And off the road ahead of him goes one of the Von Ryan McLarens, by the look of it, way wide. And Philippe Gache goes off the circuit as well, as they have to somehow try and work out a way of getting past the traffic. And if that means you go off the road, then so be it. Alvaro Parente is in this mix. Ortelli works his way through to the front of the queue almost, because now Philippe Gache, who is in 19th place overall, is the next car that he's got to find a way past. And the Porsche quick in a straight line. The McLaren coming back at the Audi look as well. Alvaro Parente trying to challenge, but Stefano Ortelli fends him off, going through Signe. Number 1 leads the way, Stefano Ortelli, but that traffic will have done him a power of no good through that sector. The only consolation is, of course, that Maxime Martin has got to find his way through it as well. 17, Dennis Anderson again rotates in the Ferrari. Back into the race he goes. Now, Philippe Gache, experienced enough to get out of the way of Stefano Ortelli. Is he going to do so? Yes. Moves to one side. Ortelli nips up the inside in number 1 Audi. Through he goes. And that is, therefore, for the moment, clear road ahead. And that's what Maxime Martin is craving at the moment. He's going to try and get himself through all of this traffic. 10.5 minutes, give or take, remain at Paul Ricard. Round 3 of the Blancpain Endurance Series. And Audi, talk about BMWs being affected by the balance of performance. The Audi as well, remember, 50 kilos heavier. That car still looking very strong indeed. Over the line it comes. That lap from Stefano Ortelli, 2 minutes 2.4. What about a Maxime Martin lap? 2 minutes 2.5. Gap widens, therefore, thanks to the traffic. There's the BMW in the background. Stefano Ortelli is 4.7 seconds ahead, even though we're talking about the gap fluctuating by thousandths on that last lap. In real terms, it has come down because We've had it at 7, we've had it at 6.7, we've now got 4.7. So in real terms, there is a trend, and that trend is that the gap is coming down. There's Maxime Martin, Stefano Ortelli, with all his many, many years of experience and guile in his armoury, versus the raw speed of Maxime Martin, who has just got on with the job of learning about his racing very, very effectively. He began in new-shape minis and then had a spell in Formula Renault 1600 in Belgium. He raced in the Eurocup Megane Trophy, and in the French Clio Championship he was the champion of that, and then he came to GT3 initially, winning races at Silverstone in Morgans, and has raced in GT3, he's raced in GT1, and the German Championship as well. There's barely a weekend, I think, goes by without Maxime finding something to race somewhere and go quickly in it. And all of these miles that he does have made him a very, very good driver. As I was saying earlier, his dad, a hugely successful Belgian touring car racer, so it's in the DNA anyhow. But Maxime, without making a big song and dance about it, just gets in and goes quickly. And the young Belgian driver turning his way now up towards the completion of lap 80. In sector 1 he was quicker, in sector 2 he was much slower, and that's the sector where you've got the bulk of the Mistral straight, which is always going to go against that car. It is through the corners where the BMW scores, and there you can see Stefano Ortelli. Behind him is the Jack Gerber Marco Ciocci Ferrari that's got Jack Gerber back behind the wheel of it, and he's now running in 33rd place. Ortelli using all of the road and the curbing as he comes now out of the Virage Dupont, goes up over the timing line. Through he goes, that lap's a 2 minutes 1.7. Maxime Martin behind him is going to have to be heroic in the last sector, and he is quicker, and the gap is going to be up, but the lap time is a 2 minutes 2.6. He's quicker in the last sector, he's got the traffic still to worry about. He gets past, and then straight away the traffic thinks, well, maybe you're a bit slower than I expect you to be. I'll have a look to get past you again, because nobody wants their race to be compromised, whether it's by a back marker or by a leading car that is then slower in the next sequence of corners. Ortelli, meantime, has got more traffic ahead of him, and 8 minutes of the race remain as he comes down out of the chicane. So Stefano Ortelli, with the next group of back markers to worry about, is clear for the moment of Maxime Martin. In the first sector he has been faster. 37 is Simon Knappy looking at, back into the top 20 now, and 18 Mercedes, which was damaged early on with the contact with the Nissan, is currently running in 27th place, which therefore means you're not really going to see the best out of its third driver, double Porsche Super Cup champion Blancpain, another driver fresh from Le Mans. Anything you put your own into, he's very, very quick, but the damage in a sense has been done not only to the bodywork but also to its position, because it's lost time earlier in the race. So Blancpain is pushing as hard as he can, but there's not too much he's going to be able to do to make up ground before the very end. There's 22 United Autosports McLaren. Alvaro Perez is 26 behind the wheel of that car. In terms of sectors, Ortelli better in 1 and better in 2 on this lap, and way wide goes Perez, gets himself on the marbles and drifts wide, tries to gather it all up, but as he does so he's in danger of losing places, because past him goes Jordan Grosjean. So 88 having its strongest race of the season so far, the Von Ryan Racing Team McLaren, run by Dave Ryan's squad. Look at Ferrari getting lapped, in fact. So that was the Jack Gerber car, wasn't it? Getting lapped by Maxime Martin. Right, 6.5 minutes. How many more laps can they squeeze in? It's going to be 4 at best, I would have thought now. Over the line goes the BMW once again. Is this chase a forlorn hope? That lap again is slower because of the traffic. The gap is 6.2 seconds, so it's gone up again, of course, from 4.7, which was the smallest we'd had it at. Through Barriere goes the number 3 BM, and also back into the pit lane has just come the number 5 McLaren, still shown as Jack Clark, but I think it's Edward Mondron now doing the third stint in that car, because Jack would have been in it otherwise for a very long time, and that car has come in with a potential problem, out of 12th place in fact. Christian Menzel is 9th, losing touch with Jerome Policon, who is catching Eugenio Amos. And Mark Goossens is closing on Andrea Bertolini a little bit. He's got to make up 12 seconds. He's a second a lap quicker. He's not going to do it in time. There's Stefano Gattuso, 3rd, and in a rhythm now, lapping in the 2-minute 3s. Not as quick, therefore, as the leaders, and therefore not being able to get any nearer to them. 4th, there he is, Andrea Bertolini leading the Pro-Am Cup. Once again, Andrea Bertolini underlining his style. Just gets into the car, goes as fast as possible. There's no fuss about it, just consistently quick lap times, and the car leading its class and pulling away from Eugenio Amos in 57. 5 minutes to go. Third in that class, Pro-Am is Jerome Policon, and fourth is Christian Menzel. Fifth in the class, Rafael Vantor, keeping that car well placed, in fact, ahead of number 19. Now, this is a car that's rather crept almost anonymously into the mix. Number 19 was started by Riccardo Bruchin, then it was Oliver Morley, now it's Manuel Metzger, and it's 11th overall, going very strongly. Andrea Bertolini's co-driver Nick Homerson is with Haley.
Nick, Andrea is doing a fantastic job out there. Can he bring it home?
Well, I hope so. You know, we're a bit tight on fuel, but we should be okay. It was a lot of fun today. We had to start, I believe, 28. So to bring it back, fourth overall and first in class is a great job.
Nick Homerson then, who began racing in the year 2000 in the Donkervoort Cup, now racing something very different in Ferraris. And we've seen him in Porsches as well before turning to Ferraris. So gets better and better and better every year. Had a couple of class wins last year. Regular co-driver with Willy Machiels, and Andrea Bertolini comes through now, putting a lap there on the 98 Audi, which is now with Michael Bender at the wheel, running in the Gentleman Trophy. Of course, that was the car that won at Silverstone. Right, so through goes Bertolini, fourth, but interesting to hear that that car is marginal on fuel. Now, I just wonder whether anybody else has got a fuel issue, especially given the way that the likes of Ortelli and Martin are trying to go as rapidly as they can to make sure that, in the case of Ortelli, he stays ahead. In the case of Martin, he catches the leading car. But are they also a bit marginal on fuel? So, Haley, if you fancy another wonder, see if any of the two teams, they'll probably deny it, but just see if they'll offer you a thought on fuel consumption of Audi or BMW. That would be interesting to hear in the last 3 minutes of the race. May not be an issue at this late stage now. They've possibly done the calculations right. We're almost at the end of the third round of the Blancpain Endurance Series, and Stefano Ortelli leads the way with, in the first sector of the lap, the gap down by 4/10, and then it goes up by 4/10 in the second sector. There's the Porsche behind the white Porsche, Philippe Gache at the wheel. That car is 18th overall now. He's hauled the car back up the order since he took over from Eric Clement. The car runs in the pro class. Eric Clement, who's a front runner in the French GT Championship, not a slow driver, but he's not on the same kind of pace as Olivier Plat or Philippe Gache. And there is 58 leading the Gentleman Trophy. Christian Kelders and Daniel De Bruyere, first time out in that car that drops down from the Pro-Am into the Gentleman Trophy. We've got two bronze graded drivers, and it's an older car, so it makes more sense really for this weekend for it to be in that class. And it looks like it's going to have a win, and it's gone very, very strongly all the way through this race. Ortelli through the gap down again by 9/10. That was a good lap by Maxime Martin. Maybe it was traffic getting in the way of Ortelli, and therefore the traffic that he has just encountered is going to have to be negotiated by Maxime Martin. And looking at the clock, I would suggest it's this and one more in terms of laps. So there should be enough time at the end of this lap for one more lap, but I can't see Maxime Martin getting there in time. It's been another amazing result, or will be potentially, to get second place out of this. And of course that was a car just like the leading Audi that was way down on the grid. Car number one started 15th behind by the tune of one row. Car number three. So both of them have worked their way up from poor qualifying, and now a smile or two is afforded from the Christophers, Hasser and Nice, because it looks as though Stefano Ortelli is going to bring it home in P1. He's on the Mistral straight. Behind him you've got in the traffic the Aaron Scott driven Audi, one of last year's WRT cars. And then where is Maxime Martin? He's almost hidden in the traffic. He's got another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 back markers to get past, and then try and close on the leader. It's not going to happen for him. One more lap to ring out of this race. Still, the best lap was done early doors by Mirko Venturi, which illustrates just how disappointing it was for that team, for the car to retire early on with its gearbox problem, because it was certainly looking very, very fast early on in the race. But Ortelli it is that leads now, and with just about time for one more lap. It's going to be a different brand to win round 3 of the Blancpain Endurance Series, assuming all stays good. The car now making its way towards the completion of lap 84. We've had one safety car period early on that certainly changed the face of the race for many teams, and clever strategy has brought many of them into the mix. So number one leading the way, Stefano Ortelli. The last lap that he did was a 2 minutes 2, and Maxime Martin did a 2 minutes 1.4. Let's see what happens this time around as the Audi comes across the timing line with a handful of seconds to spare. And is that being passed again by the Mercedes? The lap that it does is a 2 minutes 2.6. Stefano Ortelli slots in behind. I hesitate hesitation in my voice is as to whether or not Ortelli is lifting off on this last lap to look after fuel. Let's just see what the first sector is like. So he comes now down towards the chicane. Maxime Martin behind him was not as quick, in fact, by a couple of attempts. And Stefan Ortelli wriggles his way through the chicane. 3 back markers, still the cushion between him and Maxime Martin. The clock has hit 0, so it'll be the checkered flag this time around. And is Stefan Ortelli going to bring it home successfully? Works his way now through Lecole onto the Mistral, runs really wide there. Hops over the curb, onto the runoff, back onto the circuit. And where behind him is Maxime Martin. He is ever so slightly quicker by 18 thousandths within the first sector. So that kind of pace isn't going to help him. So can the Audi preserve its advantage? See the way that other cars are suddenly looking a bit more of a threat in the mirrors to Stefan Ortelli, which still makes me think that this is a fairly conservative last lap for him. Through Senior comes the number 1 car. Stefan Ortelli, 3 corners to go, turns his way wide. He's going to let the slower Audi go, is he? Yes, he is. So that's Dino Lenardi, 17th up the inside, and Stefan Ortelli runs wide and nearly gets his nose chopped off, coming then now towards the completion of the last lap of the race, heading towards Village now. And Maxime Martin is still pushing on behind him, but in fact was also losing out in that middle sector because of traffic. So the Audi comes up towards the line, and we've got a problem for one of the other cars. It's the Curiacos BMW that slowed right down. Ollie Bryant looks like he's having to limp to the flag. Maybe that's fuel as well, but it's going to be a win for Audi because Stefan Ortelli comes across the line to take victory in round 3 of the Blancpain Endurance Series. Stefan Ortelli, Christopher Hasse and Christopher Mies take victory at Paul Ricard. It's a win for the Audi, and second is the BMW over the line. Maxime Martin with Bas Liners and Marcus Paltela coming home in second place, and for third, as you can see, the Curiacos BMW limping to the line. Third now is Stefano Gattuso, Davide Rigon and Daniel Zampieri, and Ollie Bryant limp to the line. I think it must just about get there. Coast over the line as Andrea Bertolini wins Pro-Am, and the Curiacos BMW comes through 20th, goes across the timing line, and that last lap, 3 minutes and 23. You saw the car limping through the last corner, and very, very slow indeed over the line, but it's got to the end in 20th place overall, which is a very good effort, and way wide there has gone the Edouard Mondron, Jack Clark, Nico Verdonk McLaren as 57 comes through on the inside of it. They're on different laps anyway, but Eugenio Amos with the wiper on is going to come through to be 7th, already across the line in 5th is 75 Mark Goossens, and the celebrations break out at the Belgian Audi Club. Team WRT, Pierre Giudone looking very relieved, and it's Christopher Mies, pretty chuffed with that, yes, thumbs up all round. And there you can see the way that the top 6 came across the line, with the second Mark VDS Racing BMW of Henri Moser in 6th place. So another very, very fraught race, and lots going on right to the very end. There is 57, Alessandro Bonaccini, Giacomo Petrobelli and Eugenio Amos to take 7th overall, and with it 2nd in class and 3rd in class will be number 10, won't it? Jerome Policon in the Sofra Ferrari, shared with Mike Savary and Gabriel Balthazar. So Stefan Ortelli, along with the Christophers, Hasse and Mies, victorious in this 3rd round of the Blancpain Endurance Series, and 2nd to Maxime Martin, Bas Liners and Marcus Paltela. 3rd, Daniel Zampieri, Davide Rigon and Stefano Gattuso. 4th, Andrea Bertolini, Nick Commerson and Louis Machiels in the Ferrari that you can see peeling off the road there on the Mistral. Just, yeah, there's the winning Audi in the background doing the same thing. I still think that's because they are marginal on fuel and trying to get out of the way of cars that are going faster, even on the slowing down lap, and also to make sure that they've got some fuel in the car at the very end for scrutineering, which is a requirement of the regulations as well. What you don't want is for the car to run dry on the slowing down lap, and then there's nothing for the scrutineers to have when they need to do their work at the very end. So interesting that fuel possibly has become an issue at the end. 2 cars have headed down the pit lane to take the flag, one of which is Philippe Gache. So a number of drivers with very leisurely slowing down laps, but the winning Audi of Stefan Ortelli then with a margin at the end of 5.8 seconds. It was certainly elasticated over the last few laps as the traffic played a part and the drivers had to change their pace according to the fuel consumption and the gap as it was. And Stefano Telli, with the decades of experience, comes through victorious. And the first victory of the year for Audi. The worst result of the year for Marc VDS, second place after 2 wins. Disaster strikes, but actually I think they'll be well chuffed with that, given that all weekend and all race you've been hearing from Bas Linders about the fact that the car is not on the pace and it hasn't got the speed in a straight line and the balance performance has hurt, etc, etc, etc. But when it matters, the car is there and it scores good points. And victory at Spa would be very well received by and for that team on home soil, as it would for the Belgian Audi Club. So Stefano Telli, Christopher Mies and Christopher Hauser, the winners, not just outright, but of the Pro Cup as well, from Maxime Martin, Marcus Paltela and Bas Linders. And then third in the Pro Cup, third overall, will be the Ferrari, Daniel Zampieri, along with Stefano Gattuso. As you see there, the ART McLaren that has stopped on the circuit, that's the Gregoire de Moustier Duncan Tappy car that was 13th, a good result for that. I think that might possibly be fuel related as well, that the car has had to stop on the circuit. Davide Rigon, the third driver of the third place Ferrari, and he will also be making his way shortly to the podium. So drama for some teams, late race in Pro-Am, third different winning combination of the year. Andrea Bertolini, along with Nick Homerson and Louis Machiels, victorious in the Ferrari. It's very Italian in terms of the brands that win. 2 wins to Ferrari, Lamborghini the other winner at Silverstone. Second in class was 57, the Bonaccini Petrobelli Amos Ferrari. And then third in class, Jérôme Policonde, Gabriel Savary, Mike Savary I should say, and Gabriel Balthazar. So Ferrari 1, 2, 3 in the Pro-Am class. Maxime Martin getting out of the BMW. Team delighted, no doubt, with that result, because it certainly wasn't looking very promising in the practice sessions we had yesterday. And just in the background there, 21 made its way back into the pit lane. The M-Tech Ferrari that was, I think, lucky to get into the race at all after its woes from earlier on. And 44th, that car, but a long, long way adrift after a long mid-race pit stop. So whether it's going to be classified remains to be seen, but good that the team actually got the car in the race. Mike Edmonds' squad M-Tech, he drove as well as Matt Griffin, but good that the car got in the race. Marcus Paltela congratulates Maxime Martin, and a very, very happy team. Second, 5.8 seconds adrift at Flagfall. It's a win for the Belgian Audi Club. Christopher Hauser, Christopher Mies and Stefano Telli defeat Marc VDS's Marcus Paltela, Bas Linders and Maxime Martin, and the Ferrari of Stefano Gattuso, Davide Rigon and Daniel Zampieri. Henrici, Mawson and Goossens 4th, Langin, Hazemans, Moser 5th, and then 6th in the Pro Cup, Clark, Mondron and Nico Verdonk ahead of Philippe Gach's Porsche and the United Autosports McLaren in 8th. Well, there's the winning car, Stefano Telli, the Monaco-based French driver, who, when I saw him yesterday and I said, how's the day gone? He said, not good. With all the extra weight, the speed not in the car, well, what a difference. Good strategy, good pace, and a bit of misfortune for others can make. They are absolutely delighted, that team, and understandably so, because the car, remember, was way, way back on the grid. And from 15th, Audi wins at Paul Ricard. Hayley.
Stefan, congratulations. You're a local hero. You've been racing here and watching races here for many years. What does it feel to have taken this win this weekend?
First of all, well done for the championship. I mean, I've been racing here many times, but not with so many cars. I want to thank this family spirit we have with WRT. It's such a great team. We came back from a difficult position in free practice. We've been doing extremely well job, and I want to say thank you for both Chris. It's good to win here, and I want to dedicate this win to Jean Ortelli, my dad, who bring me here for the first time in 1973. Thank you.
Thank you. Christopher, congratulations, another great result for the team. You've had 3 podium finishes now.
Yeah, so far so good, but it was not so easy like it looks. I mean, both of my teammates, especially Christopher and then Stefan as well did an incredible job. I mean, the last laps were just a crime, so I'm really happy, especially for the boys, because we were 3 seconds off in the free practice, so yeah, we had quite a good pace.
And Christopher, it would look like you made a great fuel strategy. Was in place for the team this week.
Yeah, I mean, our team did just a great job in that case. They did the strategy and also the tactic which we did in the race just perfect, and at the end it was the key also to win the race.
Thank you, guys.
And Hayley, a very important message has just come up on the timing screen from the race director, and it says happy birthday Hayley, for it is Hayley Coxon's birthday, and she spent it prowling the pit lane, so happy birthday Hayley from all involved in the Blancpain Endurance Series. Well, there are the 3 winning drivers, Stefano Ortelli, Christopher Hasse, Christopher Mies. They'll head to the podium, and let's have a look at how Pro-Am finished with victory for AF Corsa ahead of Vita 41 Team Italy and Sofrev Autosport Promotion. Again, very much dominated by Ferrari. Hommerson, Machiels and Bertolini ahead of Amos, Petrobelli and Bonaccini. Savare, Balthazar and Policon the top 3. Best Porsche in class, Hans-Guido Riegel, Mike Stursberg and Christian Menzel. Then the Mercedes, good result for Brutschin, Metzger and Oliver Morley. The other Mercedes are Vantor, Wouters and Retro that went so well early on, dropping in the end to 6th in class after Vantor was tagged into that spin and lost pace. Porsche 7th, the Valtoire's car, McLaren 8th, Gregoire de Moustier and Duncan Tappy. And in the end, 13th in class, the Curiacos BMW after staggering to the end. I suspect that was a car low on fuel, but it got there. 20th overall, but 13th in class. Jay Twyman, Ollie Bryant and Ollie Milroy ahead of Mike Wainwright and Rob Bell's McLaren, which showed good pace early on. Rob Bell carving his way through from near the back after the turbo had to be changed after qualifying. We lost the Pressy Spark Mercedes, and as you look down that element of the order, you see how many cars we did lose out of Pro-Am, with damage to the Ferrari 42, with the steering problem for the number 20 Ferrari, with 21 not being classified, so far back was it, 11 with its fire in the pit lane, damage to the Nissan, damage to the Lamborghini, damage all the way down the order. It's been a destructive race, been a lively one, been a very exciting one as well, and for the WRT squad, victory, a rather overdue one really after 2 defeats early in the season. For the Gentleman Trophy, another victor there as well, which gives you 3 different winners in the 3 races, because we've got the Porsche of De Bruyne and Kelders ahead of the Brunstedt, Bender and Mangs Audi, and then 3rd in class Hershey, Hissam and Philippe Marie, first time out. So there's the podium. The winning drivers will be making their way up to the podium very, very shortly. And it'll start, of course, with the Pro-Am top 3. Well, there's no argument about the winners. We know it's Audi, 2nd BMW, 3rd Ferrari, and it's the Ferrari drivers that venture out first. Davide Rigon, Stefano Gattuso, and the man that set the pole position time for the race, Daniel Zampieri. They head to the far end of the podium, and that's the best result that that car has had all season. The worst result all season, 2nd place for Marcus Paltela, Maxime Martin and Bas Linders, but it's great for the championship for them, and it's a great result, not just for that car, but also for the winning Audi, as onto the podium bounces Christopher Mies, Christopher Hasse and Stefano Ortelli, victors in the 3rd round of the Blancpain Endurance Series here at Paul Ricard. And there's Vincent Voss, the team manager of Team WRT, on the podium as well as the representative of the winning team. So the national anthem played for the winners, and the drivers then now will, in time-honoured fashion, prepare themselves for the celebrations, because there are trophies first of all to be presented from Blancpain. 3rd place team of Stefano Gattuso, Davide Rigon, Daniel Zampieri. Then for the 2nd place drivers, Maxime Martin, Marcus Paltler, Bas Linders, and of course for the winners, well, What's going to happen next in the balanced performance remains to be seen, but another fascinating race here, and the story continues at Spa at the end of July for the Spa 24 Hours. If you've never been to the Spa 24 Hours, it is well worth a visit. It always gets a huge entry, and it's a great circuit, Spa, of course, so it's one to go and explore, I reckon. And with the likes of Tom Christensen joining the entry for this year's race, it's going to be another enthralling race. Audi victorious there last year, and perhaps coming on the back of the victory at Paul Ricard, it could be 2 in a row in the Spa 24 Hours. Let's see. Trophies in the air for the winning drivers, and Vincent Vance hiding in the background gets his winning team's trophy as well, as Team WRT celebrates here at Paul Ricard. Time for the champagne, and although beaten on track, it's the Marc VDS team that are first out with the champagne. A great third round of the Blancpain Endurance Series. Next stop is Spa from Haley Coxon and me, David Addison. From here, goodbye.